St. Chronica High School was bustling that morning. Some students were busy reading in the library, others were playing games together, and there were even 2 first-year students running around trying to escape the wrath of their seniors after arriving late to school. In the library, 2 girls were chatting about someone who was engrossed in a light novel. The 2 first years who had been running around were eventually scolded by their seniors and punished with laps around the school. Meanwhile, Sana was walking through the hallway surrounded by a group of male students carrying the movies she had ordered. Kodaka was a transfer student at St. Chronica High School. After a month, he still hadn't made any friends. His unusual hair color led others to assume he was a delinquent, cruel, and rough. That day, Kodaka was quietly reading in the library. When he finished, he stood up, startling the other students around him. After returning the book to the shelf, he suddenly remembered that he had left his gym clothes behind, prompting him to rush back to his classroom. As he passed by 2 other students, they looked terrified and quickly ran off. It seemed like a common occurrence for Kodaka, and he could only sigh in response. When he arrived at his classroom door, he heard someone talking inside. Curious, Kodaka opened the door slightly to peek inside. It turned out to be Yozora, his classmate. As far as Kodaka knew, Yozora had never been seen talking or laughing with anyone. She always appeared gloomy, surrounded by an aura of sadness. Strangely enough, she wasn't holding a phone, so Kodaka was confused about who she was talking to. Yozora seemed to be chatting with someone invisible during the sunset, which oddly resembled a scene from the light novel Kodaka had just read. In that story, after discovering a mysterious girl's secret, the protagonist was drawn into a battle against supernatural beings and eventually fell in love with her. Kodaka opened the door and stepped inside, surprising Yozora. She immediately reverted to her usual quiet and distant demeanor. Seeing her return to silence, Kodaka thought she looked rather cute when she smiled. Curious, he asked if Yozora could see ghosts or something similar. Yozora flatly denied the existence of ghosts. Kodaka pointed out that he had just seen her talking to someone. Yozora nonchalantly explained that she had been talking to her air friend. Confused, Kodaka asked what she meant by that. Yozora likened it to the concept of an air guitar, except in her case, it was an air friend. Kodaka questioned if she was really having a conversation as if someone else was there. Yozora insisted that her air friend named Tomo was genuinely present. She went on to talk about their time in middle school and a trip to an amusement park, mentioning how even a handsome teacher had confessed his love to them. Skeptical, Kodaka asked how much of her story was actually true. Yozora admitted that the middle school part was real, leading Kodaka to conclude that everything else was pure fiction. He had thought the amusement park story was genuine. Yozora remarked that going to an amusement park alone wouldn't be any fun. Kodaka was puzzled. Listening to Yozora's bizarre story felt pointless, but at the same time he felt like he should do something for her. Kodaka said he was sure Yozora could make real friends if she just tried talking to people, not just her air friend, but actual friends. Yozora responded that if it were that easy, she would have done it already. Kodaka understood how she felt. He knew what it was like to be alone as a transfer student. He mentioned that he'd been at the school for a month now, so he didn't really count as the new kid anymore. Yozora argued that someone like Kodaka had no right to lecture her about making friends when he himself had been at the school for a month without making a single friend. Shigen called him a lonely guy. Kodaka wasn't about to accept that insult from someone who had an air friend. Yozora insisted that Kodaka should make fun of Tomo, claiming that Tomo was sweet, smart, athletic, popular, kind, a great conversationalist, a good listener, and someone who would never betray her. Even though Yozora recognized how strange it sounded, she admitted she had no idea how to make friends. Curious, she asked if Kodaka had any friends at his previous school. Kodaka explained that he used to have friends who promised to keep in touch by messaging him. Yozora brushed it off, calling them one-sided friends. Then, out of the blue, she suggested that Kodaka could pay someone to be his friend. Kodaka dismissed the idea as ridiculous, but Yozora elaborated, saying he could pay 1,000 yen to have someone stick by his side at school for an entire week. Kodaka laughed and said it sounded more like a contract marriage, except in this case, it would be a contract friendship. Yozora seemed to like that term, but Kodaka insisted they should try to make friends in a more normal way. Yozora recalled seeing something similar in a drama, but admitted she didn't understand how friendships worked. Did a friendship instantly form as soon as both parties agreed and acknowledged each other, even if they had only just started talking? And if they stopped talking after that, did it mean they were no longer friends? Kodaka confessed that he didn't really understand either. Yozora clarified that it wasn't like she needed a friend right away, she just didn't like being dismissed as a gloomy loner with no friends. Kodaka thought she had a point. In modern times, not having friends was seen as a bad thing. Still, he personally didn't mind being alone. For Yozora, having even a fake friend at school would be comforting, but Kodaka still hoped to find real friends. He suggested they join a club together, but Yozora immediately refused. It was already June of their second year, meaning the club members had likely formed close bonds, and joining late as a new member would be awkward. She pointed out that if a new member joined only to make friends without contributing or having any useful skills, no one would want to hang out with them. Kodaka understood. Someone like that could easily disrupt the existing dynamics of the group. Suddenly, Yozora's mood shifted, and she became excited as she remembered a particular club. Without explaining further, she quickly said goodbye and left. A month earlier, Kodaka had been in a similar position to Yozora. He, too, had an imaginary friend. It was his first day at St. Chronica High School in the city of Tuya, and he had arrived late after getting on the wrong bus. By the time he finally reached the school, he was already bracing himself for trouble. He sprinted down the hall, trying to reach his classroom as fast as he could. At that moment, Ms. Asada was giving a lecture at the front of the class. Out of breath and flustered, Kodaka burst into the room and introduced himself to her. His ragged breathing and chaotic entrance made him seem rude to the other students. To make matters worse, his blonde hair only reinforced the assumption that he was a delinquent. As Kodaka looked around the classroom, he noticed that everyone seemed afraid of him. He quickly sat down at his desk, and when he opened his bag, he realized that he had forgotten his textbook. A female student immediately slid her textbook toward him. She shifted her chair closer to the person next to her, and by that afternoon, rumors had already spread that Kodaka had stolen her textbook. Even though it had happened a month ago, Kodaka still couldn't shake it off. That evening, while he was cooking dinner, he remembered how Yozora called him by his first name. It had been a long time since anyone had called him by his first name instead of his last. The next day in class, Kodaka and Yozora studied as usual. But during the break, Yozora simply fell asleep at her desk, even while two students in front of her were chatting. She stayed asleep through it all. When class ended, Yozora suddenly invited Kodaka to come with her. The other students were surprised to see Yozora talking to Kodaka. As he followed her, Kodaka wondered why she had suddenly invited him. Yozora explained that she had submitted a proposal to create a new club. Since she couldn't fit into any existing clubs, she decided to make her own. Kodaka agreed that starting a new club meant that the relationships within it would begin from scratch. The club Yozora created was the Neighbors Club. According to her, the club was formed under the guidance of God to foster friendships and strengthen the bonds between students through sincere devotion, adapting to any situation to build character. Kodaka asked if the teachers would really approve of such nonsense. Yozora confidently explained that since the school emphasized service and devotion, anything could be justified if it was claimed to be God's will. Kodaka then asked what kind of activities the Neighbors Club would have. Yozora replied that their main activity would be to find friends and avoid the pitying looks people gave to those who had to create imaginary friends. By doing this, they could eventually find people they could call real friends. Kodaka hadn't thought about it that deeply, but he supported her and congratulated her on the idea. Yozora, however, was surprised that Kodaka was talking like an outsider, considering he was already a member of the club. It turned out that Yozora had registered Kodaka as a member without asking him. She invited him to start their first club activity. They headed to the church lounge, a room Yozora had received permission to use from their faculty advisor. Kodaka asked if their advisor could teach them how to make friends. Yozora quickly dismissed the idea, saying that their advisor, Sister Maria, also didn't have any friends. Kodaka was confused as to why Yozora would choose her as their club advisor. Yozora explained that she wasn't good at talking to people who seemed to have lots of friends. Yozora said their first goal was to recruit more members. She had already made a poster to put up on all the school bulletin boards. Kodaka, however, pointed out that the poster didn't really explain what the Neighbors Club was about. Yozora told him to read it diagonally, and when he did, he found that the poster contained a hidden message saying they were looking for friends. Kodaka thought her method was a bit over the top, but Yozora insisted that only people who genuinely wanted to make friends would be able to decipher the hidden message. As if that wasn't enough, she also drew an image inspired by a famous song depicting a person making 100 friends and eating onigiri on top of Mount Fuji. If the hidden message didn't work, Yozora believed the image would get the point across. With that settled, they began putting up their posters on the school's bulletin boards. Kodaka said he didn't want to be friends with someone so gloomy that they would actually respond to the message hidden in the poster. Yozora called Kodaka an idealist for thinking everyone has the same taste. Kodaka then said that Yozora was the real idealist. Yozora asked Kodaka to stop being so formal and just call her by her real name, Yozora. Kodaka felt awkward about calling her by her first name and asked if she had any nicknames. Yozora mentioned that she used to have one but wouldn't tell him. Kodaka was curious about why she was being so secretive. It turned out the nickname was only for her friends. Not long after, a girl became interested in the poster. Once they finished putting up the posters, they returned to the church lounge. Yozora said that the real club activities would begin tomorrow, but Kodaka wasn't sure anyone would actually join the neighbors' club. Suddenly, someone knocked on their door. Yozora said it seemed like they had already gotten a new member, which surprised Kodaka since they had just finished putting up the posters. Yozora opened the door, but as soon as she saw who it was, she quickly shut it and locked it. Kodaka was confused by her reaction, but Yozora casually suggested they start their club activities. Kodaka was bewildered, especially since the person at the door was a girl, which meant she could be a good friend for Yozora. Yozora laughed at Kodaka's comment, calling him a blonde thug. The knocking came again, and when Yozora opened the door, the girl complained about the door being locked when she wanted to join the club. Yozora immediately shut the door again, saying the girl was one of the popular kids who had no business joining their club. Kodaka wondered if Yozora already knew her. Yozora explained that the girl was Sana from class 2 to 3, the only daughter of the school's owner. She was constantly followed by a group of boys who were obsessed with her. Yozora even called her a disgusting creature with the aura of a princess. Aside from being beautiful, Sana was also athletic and academically brilliant. In fact, she had been at the top of every exam since last year. Yozora clearly dislikes Sana's popularity. Kodaka couldn't understand Yozora's way of thinking. Suddenly, Sana started banging on the window. Kodaka quickly opened it. Sana was annoyed at how Yozora had treated her, when all she wanted was to join the club. Yozora tried to shut the window again, saying she wouldn't allow Sana to join if she was just there to mock her. Sana insisted that she wasn't there to make fun of anyone. She had understood the hidden message in the poster. She knew that the club was trying to find real friends, and she admitted that she wanted friends too. Yozora finally allowed Sana to join. Sana proudly declared that she was perfect, smart, athletic, and beautiful, but to Yozora, she was just a walking milk sack. In response, Sana called Yozora a washboard because of her flat chest. The two of them began arguing over their chest sizes until Kodaka interrupted and asked if Sana really wanted to make friends. Sana confirmed that she did. Yozora pointed out that Sana was already surrounded by a bunch of boys. However, Sana dismissed them, saying she only saw them as doormats. What she really wanted were genuine friends, especially girls her age who could be her partners during cooking class or school trips. Other girls always told her to join the boys who hovered around her, which was why she was desperate to find real friends. Kodaka understood that when a girl is too pretty and popular, other girls tend to isolate her. Sana then told Kodaka to kneel down so she could step on him. Kodaka was baffled and asked why he should do that. Sana said that the boys in her class liked her, and she even suspected that maybe Kodaka wanted more than just friendship, calling him a pervert. Annoyed, Kodaka protested, saying he was not a pervert. Looking at the two of them, Kodaka commented that having the neighbors' club was a good thing since they could become friends. Upon hearing that, Yozora called Sana an object and said she would never consider her family, and Sana quickly fired back with the same sentiment. Kodaka was confused about how they could already be at each other's throats on the very first day of the neighbors' club. The two girls kept arguing, and eventually, Kodaka decided to leave the room. In his mind, he thought that the club's first official meeting with just the three of them seemed to go pretty well, all things considered. That day, Kodaka went to the neighbor's club room, where Sana was already there. Kodaka greeted her using her last name. Sana asked him to call her by her first name because she knew that Kodaka called Yozora by her first name. If he'd only used her last name, it would seem like he was closer to Yozora than to her. Kodaka complied and called her by her first name. Yozora arrived and announced that the neighbors' club activities would start that day. Kodaka asked what kind of activities she meant because, in his opinion, making friends wasn't as easy as it sounded. Yozora explained that to make friends, they needed a game. Kodaka thought that games were just for kids, but Yozora mentioned that there was a popular handheld console called the PSP. She said that the day before, when she went to a family restaurant alone, she saw 4 high school students playing a game called Monster Hunter on their PSPs. Kodaka explained that Monster Hunter was an action game where players hunt monsters in a fantasy world. Yozora added that players could cooperate with each other to hunt monsters, which she believed could strengthen their friendship since everyone had to work together. Plus, players could trade items, giving them plenty of chances to interact. Kodaka summarized it by saying that the more they practiced the game, the more items they got and the more friends they could make. When Sana tried to touch Yozora's PSP, Yozora quickly snatched it away. She declared that by Monday, all neighbors' club members had to bring their PSPs with Monster Hunter installed. On Monday, Yozora, Kodaka, and Sana gathered in the club room, each bringing their PSPs. Yozora asked if they knew how to play the game. Sana had spent some time playing and concluded that it was indeed a kid's game. Yozora then asked for Kodaka's rank. Kodaka said he was still at level 1 because he hadn't managed to defeat anything yet. Yozora proudly stated that she was at level 3, but Seina smugly revealed that she was already at level 6. Kodaka was surprised, saying that level 6 was the highest rank. Seina, feeling proud of herself, claimed that she must be naturally talented at games and called herself perfect. Curious, Kodaka asked how long Seina had actually been playing since she said it was only for a short time. Seina insisted that she hadn't played much, but Yozora immediately grabbed her PSP to check the play history. It turned out that Seina had been playing for 53 hours straight. Her in-game armor was also impressive, making Yozora call her a liar. Frustrated, Yozora tossed the PSP back to Seina, who managed to catch it in time. Yozora then pulled Seina's face closer and pointed out the dark circles under her eyes. Embarrassed, Seina quickly covered them with powder. Yozora concluded that after school on Friday, Seina had been playing the game non-stop day and night. Seina defended herself by saying that even a lion would fight to the death, and if it was for Monster Hunter, she would too. Seina then invited them to start playing again, offering to be the host and choosing an easy mission to begin with. Despite their constant bickering, Kodaka found it strange how seriously they took their club activities. The Monster Hunter game began. Seina and Yozora's characters were already prepared when Kodaka's character joined, causing both girls to stare in disbelief. Kodaka explained that his appearance was like that because he was still at level 1. However, they weren't surprised by his armor, they were shocked by the character he had chosen. Yozora even commented that Kodaka's character looked worse than his real-life appearance. Seina asked if he was obsessed with long-haired foreigners, especially since his character's name was Hawk. Kodaka defended himself, saying it was fine for his in-game appearance to be different from reality. They began their mission to defeat a mosquito monster. Yozora successfully shot an arrow at the mosquito, but out of nowhere, Seina attacked Yozora, causing her to die in the game. Seina apologized, saying her hands were a bit slippery and urged Kodaka to heal up and get back to the fight. Kodaka couldn't believe that someone at level 6 like Seina would miss her target, which made him wonder if she had intentionally leveled up just to mess with Yozora. They continued playing the game. While Seina was fishing, an arrow suddenly hit her, causing her to fall into the water. Frustrated, Seina demanded to know why Yozora did that to her. Yozora claimed she had pressed the wrong button, but Seina was convinced that Yozora had aimed at her on purpose. Just as Seina was about to retaliate, a monster appeared. Seina immediately got ready to attack it, but Yozora shot a sleep arrow at her and then set off a bomb nearby, killing both Seina and the monster. Yozora cheered, celebrating her victory, while Seina angrily asked why she did that. Yozora said she was trying to help but lost control, apologizing afterward. Seina, however, was sure Yozora had done it on purpose. Kodaka reminded them to work together seriously. Yozora promised to support Seina more in their next hunt, and Seina said she would do the same. With that, the real hunt began. Their next mission took place at a volcano. Yozora mockingly called Seina a piece of meat that shouldn't be wandering around and suggested she should be chopped up instead. Not to be outdone, Seina called Yozora a loudmouth farmer and vowed to hunt her down. As they advanced, both girls took out several monsters while also attacking each other. Meanwhile, Kodaka focused on gathering crystal stones and managed to find a dragonite ore. It became clear that Yozora and Seina were more interested in fighting each other than the actual monsters, using bombs, arrows, and swords against each other. In the chaos, Kodaka was defeated by a monster. Despite losing, he couldn't help but notice how much fun Yozora and Seina seemed to be having as they tried to take each other down. Eventually, time ran out and their mission failed. After finishing the game, Yozora admitted that playing games wasn't really a good way to strengthen friendships. Seina agreed, saying it was just a waste of time. Yozora also confessed that she didn't like modern games with multiplayer modes, wondering why she had to play with other people. Seina shared the same sentiment, questioning why she had to care about other people's feelings in a game world. Kodaka, curious, asked if they had ever cared about other people's feelings in real life. Both girls were shocked by his question, prompting Kodaka to pretend he hadn't said anything. After classes ended, Kodaka overheard two male students talking about Monster Hunter. He approached them, mentioning that he also played the game. However, the two students became scared because of Kodaka's intimidating appearance. When he asked to trade items, the frightened students complied. The next day, a rumor spread around the school that Kodaka had been extorting his classmates. That day, Seina brought a television and a PlayStation to the clubroom. Kodaka asked why she had brought such bulky items to school. Seina confidently replied that of course it was for playing games. Kodaka was puzzled as to why she had gone through so much trouble to bring a TV that big. Seina proudly announced that she had found the game far more useful than Monster Hunter. She then told Kodaka and Yozora, who she called peasants, to be grateful to her. Yozora told Sena to be quiet because her talking was ruining the taste of her coffee. Sena scolded Yozora for casually using her tea set. The game Sena brought was called Karamiki School Life 7, which she thought was the perfect gal game for their club. Yozora agreed, saying it was good for conversation practice. Kodaka mentioned that gal games were usually for guys, and that for female players, there should be a gal game featuring handsome boys instead. Sena insisted that she wasn't looking for male friends. They decided to play the gal game. While setting up the character's name, Sena started typing her own, but Yozora insisted on using her name since she was the club president. Sena questioned when Yozora had become the club president. Kodaka suggested using his name since the game's protagonist was a boy. Both Yozora and Sena immediately rejected the idea. Kodaka then proposed that Sena use her own name since she bought the game, and Yozora finally relented. Sena praised Kodaka for being considerate toward her. Just as Sena was about to finish typing her name, Yozora suddenly snatched the device and randomly pressed buttons, resulting in the character's name being Kashiwazaki Semapaname. Sena was shocked at the weird name, but Yozora insisted that Semapaname sounded cool and suggested that Sena use it as her real name instead, claiming that hearing Sena's real name made her want to vomit. The game began with Semapaname introducing Suzuki Masaru as her best friend since middle school. This irritated Kodaka, who complained that the protagonist already had a best friend and was still trying to make more. Sena called Kodaka creepy for making such a comment. Masaru told Semapaname that hanging out with pretty girls was one of the best ways to enjoy high school. Sena thought Masaru was a bit shallow but admitted that his way of talking was appealing. She wished she could be friends with someone like him. Then, Akari introduced herself as one of Semapaname's classmates. She was a bit nervous about starting high school but felt that the people around her seemed friendly. Akari asked Semapaname if they could be good friends. The game presented 3 choices. The first 2 involved greeting her back, while the third option was to rudely reject Akari and tell her to stay away. Without hesitation, both Sena and Yozora chose the third option in unison. Kodaka was bewildered by their decision, pointing out that it was obviously the wrong choice. Sena argued that any girl who talked to a guy she didn't know on the first day of school was suspicious. Yozora added that such girls probably said the same things to every boy they met. Kodaka disagreed, saying that Akari seemed like a nice person. Yozora retorted that those types of girls were the worst. On the surface, they acted sweet and innocent, but behind the scenes, they flirted with every guy in sight. Kodaka found it hard to believe that girls like that actually existed. Yozora insisted that according to the internet, all girls these days were like that. Sena clicked the third option, rejecting Akari. Akari apologized, admitting that she might have been too forward with someone she had just met. She promised to be more careful in the future and asked Semapaname not to be mad at her. In the game, a protagonist had to improve her skills through various activities to unlock events and meet other female characters. Yozora remarked that the game world was tough. Just like real life, you couldn't meet people unless you had some skills. Sena agreed, saying she didn't want her character to be an idiot, so she immediately chose the study option. Yozora also said she didn't like dumb guys. As Semapaname continued studying, her intelligence increased, prompting Yozora to comment on how stupid she must have been before. Kodaka just smiled and said it was just a game. While at the library, Semapaname's hand accidentally touched a girl's hand. Her name was Yukiko, and she apologized. Semapaname was then faced with 2 options. The first was to give the book to Yukiko, and the second was to take the book without saying anything. Kodaka assumed Yozora and Sena would pick the second option, but surprisingly, they both chose the first. Kodaka was confused and asked why. Yozora said that rather than spending time reading books, it was better to study. Sena also mentioned that she was aiming to reach 200 intelligence points before the next exam. Sena pressed the first option, and afterward, Yukiko thanked Semapaname and introduced herself. Yukiko even complimented Semapaname's name, calling it nice. Yozora remarked that Yukiko must have a screw loose to think a name like Semapaname was nice. The screen then displayed that Semapaname could now invite Yukiko on a date. Yozora agreed that Yukiko was a better choice than that cheap Akari. As Yukiko and Semapaname went on a date, the scenes touched Sena deeply. She even commented that being loved by a girl felt amazing. Yozora admitted that Yukiko did seem like a nice person. Suddenly, when Semapaname offered to walk Yukiko home, she avoided him. Sena was confused about why Yukiko was acting that way. Kodaka explained that Yukiko was avoiding him because of how rude Semapaname had been to Akari whenever they met. He added that if a girl didn't like him, bad rumors would spread and affect how other girls viewed him. Sena concluded that Yukiko was avoiding him because Akari had been badmouthing him at school, which made her furious and want to beat Akari up. Kodaka clarified that the real issue wasn't that, but if Semaponame apologized to Akari, everything would return to normal. Seina refused to do that, and Yozora agreed, saying she would never lower her head to some foolish girl who got upset over nothing. Seina supported Yozora's stance, confidently stating that Yukiko would eventually understand it was all a misunderstanding. Semaponame tried approaching Yukiko again, but she kept avoiding him. This made Seina burst into tears, as she couldn't believe it, especially after trusting Yukiko so much. Kodaka was surprised at how emotionally invested Seina had become in the game, especially when Yozora decided to go out and find Akari to kill her. Kodaka was further shocked when Seina began crying hysterically after being ignored by Yukiko. The next day, Seina handed the Gal game to Kodaka, asking him to play it after school, especially the third-year Akari event, which had made her cry uncontrollably. Kodaka was bewildered, considering how Seina had previously called Akari a cheap and insolent girl. Seina then insisted that Kodaka should stop badmouthing Akari because she had lost her parents when she was young and had been working hard ever since. Despite her hardships, Akari filled the world with her smiles instead of hating it. Seina also urged Kodaka not to forget the story routes of Yukiko, Aino, Mio, Natsumi, Mizuki, and Karen because they were all wonderful girls. Kodaka was astonished to learn that Seina had completed all the routes right after school the previous day. She also demanded that Kodaka see all the endings, calling it a must because Karasuku was a masterpiece that everyone in the country had to play. According to her, it wasn't just a game, it was life. As soon as the bell rang, Seina hurried off to her class, but not before reminding Kodaka again to play the Gal game. The official note for the Neighbors Club was that Seina had successfully made friends with 7 two-dimensional girls. That day, Kodaka and Yozora went to the club room and found Seina completely focused on her laptop. Kodaka greeted Seina, but she didn't respond. Annoyed, Yozora immediately yanked out her earphone cable. A female voice echoed from the laptop, sounding like a woman moaning in pleasure. Without hesitation, Yozora pinned Seina down and pulled her backward. It turned out Seina was watching an adult video on her laptop. Irritated, Seina quickly closed her laptop, wondering why Yozora would do that to her. Yozora scolded her, asking why she was doing something so perverted in that sacred place. Seina protested, asking Yozora not to misunderstand her. She explained that it was Sacred Blackstar, a popular Bisuyo game, a fantasy adventure full of emotions and love. The scene she was watching was the aftermath of a trial where the god Barnaval was defeated, and Lucas, the main character, confessed his love to Cecilia, the heroine, in a pure and sincere way. So according to Seina, there was nothing dirty about the scene at all. Kodaka pointed out that playing a rogue in the club room was inappropriate. Seina claimed she didn't know. She explained that at first she was just looking for another interesting game after finishing Karasuku, and since this game was trending, she asked her male friends to find it for her, which they happily did. Yozora, however, still called Seina a pervert. Frustrated, Seina asked if Yozora even listened to her explanation, but Yozora simply labeled her as a lewd, succubus-like maniac, a cheap girl, a real-life Dutch wife, and even a walking porn film. Yozora also warned Seina to stay away from her and not to touch her. Seina, still angry, questioned why Yozora was insulting her just because she was playing a game. She admitted that some of the game's dialogue was a bit much, but on the other hand, it carried a deep theme about identity that could put regular literature to shame. To her, the game was a masterpiece. Yozora, unimpressed, accused Seina of still enjoying dirty scenes and demanded that Seina just admit she was a pervert. Seina refused to admit it, arguing that she only wanted to feel closer to Cecilia, the female character in the game, and that her feelings for Cecilia were completely pure. She even urged Yozora to watch the scene herself to prove that it wasn't dirty. Seina claimed that Yozora simply couldn't see the scene as art without letting her dirty mind interfere. Challenging Seina, Yozora told her to read the scene out loud. If it was truly art, there should be no problem. Though embarrassed, Seina agreed but said reading a masterpiece aloud in front of others felt a bit humiliating. In response, Yozora offered to read a passage from her own novel aloud so Seina could hear it, but she doubted the game was art, calling it nothing more than a 10,000 yen Dutch wife simulator. Angered by Yozora insulting Cecilia, Seina accepted the challenge and began reading the scene Yozora found indecent. Blushing, she awkwardly read the part where Cecilia begged Lucas to pierce her with his sacred sword. Yozora demanded she read louder. Seina continued, trembling as she recited Cecilia's desperate pleas for Lucas to thrust his black, glowing sacred sword into her non-Barnaval. Sana's voice shook as she imitated Lucas, asking if Cecilia truly wanted his sacred sword, even calling her a so. Sana kept going, mimicking Cecilia's pleas for Lucas to thrust the sword into her womanhood. But when she reached the part where Lucas asked Cecilia to say the sword's true name, she refused to continue. Yozora, leaning in, whispered for her to keep reading, but Sana couldn't bring herself to do it. Overwhelmed, she ran out of the room, calling Yozora an idiot. After Sana left, Kodaka turned to Yozora, asking if she had gone too far. Yozora casually admitted that she had recorded Sana's voice while she was reading the game's dialogue and even planned to upload it online. Kodaka called Yozora heartless, but it turned out she was just joking. Yozora opened an art book and started reading because she had promised to read the artwork out loud. She read a quote from the book that said, "In the sorrow tainted by heavy and cold snowfall that day, in the sorrow tainted by the fiercely blowing wind that day." Hearing that quote, Kodaka immediately recognized it as the work of Nakahara Chuya, a Japanese poet from the Showa era. That afternoon, when Kodaka returned home, his younger sister, Kobato, told him that she had been waiting for him to bring her an offering. Kodaka understood that Kobato was hungry. She claimed that Kobato was just an alias and her real name was Rices v. Felicity Subaraji, the ancestor of the Children of the Night. She said she was thirsty for blood and that if her offering did not arrive soon, disaster would befall her. Kodaka assured her that he was cooking for her. Not long after, the food was ready and Kodaka poured her a glass of tomato juice. Kobato immediately drank it, calling it refreshing blood. While they ate together, Kodaka reminded Kobato not to leave any onions on her plate and even fed her the onions himself. Kobato asked why her offerings had been arriving late recently. Kodaka explained that he couldn't come home early because of the club. She then asked which was more important, her, the club, or himself. Kodaka jokingly answered that the club was more important and asked if she would be willing to cook dinner for him. Kobato reminded him that their tomato juice supply was running low and Kodaka promised to buy more tomorrow. For the past year, Kobato had been obsessed with the anime Kuroge no Necromancer and had fully embraced one of the characters from that world. Their father had bought the house they currently lived in when Kodaka was born, but the family moved away 10 years ago because of his work. When their father was reassigned to work in America, Kodaka and Kobato decided to stay in Japan and move back into the house, although Kodaka couldn't remember much about his early years there. Kodaka took on the responsibilities of cooking meals and preparing the bath. The next day, in the neighbor's club room, Kodaka found himself thinking about how important the club was. With Yozora absent, Sana could play the Eroge Sacred Black Star in peace. Kodaka mentioned that Yozora had gone to buy a book that day. In the game Sana was playing, the characters were getting ready to go swimming. Curious, Sana asked if Kodaka could swim. Kodaka said he was decent at it, so Sana requested that he teach her because she had never learned how to swim. Kodaka agreed but wondered why she suddenly wanted to learn. It turned out that Natsume, a character in her Eroge, had invited her to go swimming at the beach. Sana then invited Kodaka to go to Ryu Land with her next Sunday, and he agreed. She made him promise not to tell Yozora that she couldn't swim. The following day, Sana didn't come to the club room because she was out shopping for a swimsuit. Yozora remarked that the club felt quieter without her around. Kodaka asked how the book Yozora had bought was, and she said it was good. When Sunday arrived, Kodaka met up with Sana at the bus stop. They got on the bus and headed to Ryu Land. Once they arrived, they quickly changed into their swimsuits. Kodaka couldn't help but be captivated by Sana's chest. He even felt awkward watching her back as she stepped into the pool. First, Kodaka told Sana to try opening her eyes underwater, which she managed to do perfectly. Next, he taught her how to kick properly. Holding her hands, Kodaka guided her legs as they moved through the water. After that, he showed her how to move her arms. Once the basics were covered, they swam together from one end of the pool to the other. To Sana's surprise, swimming wasn't as difficult as she had imagined. After their swimming lesson, they sat down to eat together. Sana proudly said she could already swim faster than she expected, so she'd be ready anytime Natsume wanted to challenge her. Kodaka, however, casually remarked that Natsume would probably never show up. The pool was spacious, and there weren't many visitors, but unfortunately, it would be closing soon. Sana mentioned that the mayor had told her father that Ryu Land would only remain open for a few more years. Remembering that Sana's father was the owner of their school, Kodaka realized he had yet to meet him and decided he should stop by to say hello. Hearing this, Sana was surprised and immediately asked why Kodaka wanted to meet her father. She can speculate that he might want to ask her dad for permission to date her or something along those lines. Kodaka, confused by her assumptions, explained that her father and his dad were old friends and he just wanted to thank him for helping him get into Street Chronica Academy. Sena pouted, saying that if Kodaka had told her from the beginning, there wouldn't have been any misunderstanding. Kodaka responded that the misunderstanding was entirely on her. Sena was annoyed that Kodaka would talk back to her like that. Suddenly, Kodaka mentioned meat, which immediately caught Sena's attention because Yozora often called her by that nickname. Kodaka clarified that he was only talking about a piece of meat in his yakisoba that was too tough to chew. He was puzzled by how Sena still reacted to that nickname even when Yozora wasn't around. Sena, irritated, complained about how that witch Yozora had given her such a weird nickname. Kodaka teased her, saying she seemed to accept the nickname pretty easily. Sena admitted that it was her first ever nickname, and despite everything, it made her happy. She then asked Kodaka not to mention that to Yozora. After that, Sena invited Kodaka to swim again. Kodaka excused himself to go to the restroom, but as he walked back, he was still thinking about how strange it was that Sena would be happy about such an insulting nickname. Just as he was about to rejoin Sena, he noticed 3 guys harassing her. Sena tried to act tough and scolded them, but her trembling legs made it obvious that she was scared. Despite that, she refused to admit she was frightened and kept ranting at them. Kodaka called out to her and approached. He firmly told the 3 guys that he was with Sena. Upon hearing that, the trio immediately backed off. However, before they could leave, Sena suddenly demanded that they kneel and apologize for insulting her. She even threw some harsh words at them. One of the guys lost his temper and tried to hit her, but Kodaka swiftly intercepted him. Kodaka calmly told them that violence wasn't the answer. With a firm grip, he locked the guy's arm and warned the others to leave. His intimidating aura was enough to scare them off, and they quickly retreated. Sena, impressed by Kodaka's actions, praised him. As a token of gratitude, she even joked that she would let him lick her feet. She then complained about how rude and annoying those guys were. Kodaka, however, was more annoyed at Sena herself for provoking them when they were already leaving. He pointed out that there were people like that everywhere. Sena was confused and asked why Kodaka was scolding her when she had already thanked him. Kodaka admitted that he was angry because there were even worse people out there, and since they weren't in the club room, he couldn't always be around to protect her. Sena, irritated by his overprotectiveness, snapped that it wasn't any of his business. Kodaka snapped at her, saying that it was his business too. Sena softened and apologized, promising to be more careful in the future. She immediately invited him to go home together. On the bus, they sat apart. Sena felt it was the first time someone her age had scolded her. As they were about to part ways, Sena thanked Kodaka for the day and invited him to go there again sometime because she hadn't tried the wave pool yet. Kodaka agreed, thinking that she didn't seem angry anymore. That night, Kodaka sat lost in thought in front of the TV room. His mind drifted back to the times he used to get into fights because of his blonde hair. Not long after, Hobato suddenly ran out of the bathroom and clung to him, crying because the water in the bathtub had turned cold. When Kodaka was a child, he was bullied by some kids. One of the children shouted at them to stop picking on someone weaker. Kodaka immediately punched the kid and declared that he wasn't weak. The kid who tried to help him hit him back, and soon all the children started fighting, each trying to take Kodaka down. After that brawl, Kodaka and that kid began playing together. One day, the kid told Kodaka that his mother had said it was better to find one true friend who loves you 100 times more rather than trying to make 100 friends. And that as long as you have one person who truly cares, that is enough. Kodaka promised to love him 100 times more and said that he would always be his friend, even if he had to fight the whole world. Kodaka still remembered those words. At that moment, he had just woken up from a nap in the club room. Suddenly, Yozora's face appeared, looking awkward and embarrassed. They chatted briefly before Kodaka said goodbye and left. Kodaka couldn't help but wonder how his childhood friend was doing and whether he still lived in the same city. He even forgot what he used to call him. Kodaka suspected that his childhood friend might have already forgotten the moments they shared 10 years ago. It made him question whether lifelong friendships, where people genuinely care for each other, really exist. That day, like usual, as Kodaka walked toward the club room, he felt the other students giving him suspicious looks. But whenever he turned to face them, they would quickly avert their gazes. The students were intimidated by Kodaka's scary appearance, especially his blonde hair. When Kodaka opened the clubroom door, he saw a girl wearing a nurse's uniform sleeping in a chair. Yozora snapped a picture of Kodaka, claiming that he was bothering the little girl who was peacefully asleep. Sena immediately called Kodaka a lolicon, which he quickly denied. Yozora showed the picture she had just taken and asked if she should upload it to a website. Kodaka, Flustered, told Yozora not to create misunderstandings. Before long, the girl in the nurse's outfit woke up and was startled to see Yozora. Yozora greeted the girl, whose name was Maria, and welcomed her to the club room. Maria, still confused, exclaimed that the room was supposed to be her nap spot until Yozora came in, tricked her, and kicked her out. Kodaka asked if Maria and Yozora already knew each other. Yozora explained that Maria was the official advisor for the neighbor's club. Both Sana and Kodaka were shocked to find out that the little girl was their club advisor. Maria insisted that Kodaka should not treat her like a kid because she was a legitimate teacher at the school. However, it turned out that Maria was indeed a child, as she was only 10 years old. Sana then asked Maria what she meant by saying Yozora tricked and kicked her out. Maria recounted that Yozora barged into her room, slapped her on the right cheek, and quoted a Bible verse. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer them the other cheek as well. After that, Yozora slapped Maria's other cheek, causing her pain. Yozora then declared another fake Bible verse. If someone slaps your right cheek, give them your room, and took over her space. After signing the club's approval documents, Maria later realized that those verses were not in any scripture. Furious, she called Yozora a liar, a thief, and even filth. Kodaka remarked that Maria was too easy to deceive. Maria admitted that she was afraid Yozora would slap her again if she refused her demands. Trying to ease the tension, Kodaka introduced himself to Maria as a club member. Maria quickly labeled Kodaka and Sena as Yozora's underlings. Sena was outraged at being called an underling to that thing, and Yozora agreed, saying that Meat was not even a real member of the club. Sena angrily protested that she was an official member. Maria insisted that the room belonged to her and that she had no intention of advising a club that was none of her business. She even ordered everyone to leave her room immediately. Yozora, unimpressed, remarked that Maria clearly couldn't handle pressure and that it was impossible for a child to oversee a club. She added that only adults could take responsibility for their actions. Maria, not backing down, shouted that she was a grown-up. However, Yozora dismissed her claims, saying she had expected Maria to be a genius nun capable of managing the club, but had overestimated her. Maria yelled back, insisting that she was an adult and that supervising the club was as easy as a walk in the park. Yozora, still unconvinced, asked if Maria was willing to continue being the club's advisor. If she was, Yozora demanded that Maria beg her for the position. Reluctantly, Maria bowed and pleaded with Yozora to let her be the club's advisor. But Yozora didn't stop there. She also forced Maria to swear to God that the club room could be used freely for neighbors' club activities. To make matters worse, Yozora threatened that if Maria ever left the club, she would strip her naked, take pictures, and post them online. Shockingly, Maria agreed to all of Yozora's terms. Everyone in the room applauded Maria for officially becoming their advisor. Blushing with pride and embarrassment, Maria accepted her new role. Yozora wasted no time in giving her additional tasks, ordering her to clean the club room every day and make tea for her. Without hesitation, Maria began cleaning right away. Yozora, with a smug expression, remarked that nothing was easier than fooling a fool. That day, Kodaka mentioned that he felt a strange gaze following him, and he even suspected that someone was stalking him. Sena laughed when she heard that and told him that 90% of stalkers usually have motives related to love. She then jokingly concluded that Kodaka must have found his true love at school. Kodaka got annoyed and said that he was the fool for asking his clubmates for help. As he was about to leave, Yozora stopped him and said that a club couldn't just let one of its members suffer like that. She also promised to help him catch the stalker. The next morning, Kodaka walked to school with Yozora and Sena. Yozora admitted that there were indeed a lot of strange stares around them, and Sena agreed. However, that wasn't what Kodaka meant. This time, it wasn't some mysterious figure lurking in the shadows. Everyone passing by was openly staring at the three of them. The other students even thought that Kodaka was forcing two beautiful girls to serve him. When Kodaka tried to say something, the students ran away in fear because of his rough and intimidating face. It was the first time Yozora and Sena had seen the students react to him like he was a real delinquent. As they walked down the classroom hallway, Kodaka couldn't understand why everyone thought he was the bad guy when it was Yozora and Sena who kept following him. A female student had been trailing behind him for a while, and Kodaka eventually noticed and confronted her. The student tried to give him something, thinking that he was going to extort her. Kodaka, however, had no such intention and brought her to the club room instead. The student introduced herself as Yukimura from Class 1-1. Sena remarked that the name Yukimura sounded like a samurai from the Sengoku era. Yukimura confirmed this and explained that her parents had hoped she would become a great Japanese man like Sanada Yukimura. Both Sena and Yozora were surprised to learn that Yukimura was a boy, but Kodaka couldn't help feeling that Yukimura didn't seem very masculine. Curious, Kodaka asked why Yukimura had been following him. Yukimura confessed that she was often bullied at school. Kodaka was surprised to hear that bullying like that existed at their school, but Yozora pointed out that there was no such thing as a school without bullies. According to her, people find bullying fun because humans have a tendency to hurt others when they can't hurt themselves. Whether it's killing animals, insulting people online, or mocking someone who makes mistakes, it's all part of the same behavior. Just as Kodaka was about to mention someone who fit that description, Yozora slammed the table and warned him not to lump her in with people like that. Because of the bullying, Yukimura had started following Kodaka. She wanted to learn how to become a strong man like Kodaka, someone who could live on his own terms without being bound by rules or reasons. In her eyes, Kodaka was honest and open, followed his own path, eliminated anyone who stood in his way, was surrounded by women, faced gods without fear, and held everything in heaven and earth under his control. Kodaka, however, objected to Yukimura's view of him. He insisted that he was just a regular student who followed the rules and had never extorted or forced girls to serve him. In short, Yukimura wanted to become a strong man who wouldn't be bullied. Curious, Sena asked how exactly Yukimura was bullied. Yukimura explained that the boys in her class avoided her. For example, when they changed clothes before gym class, the boys in front of her would run away. During dodgeball, she was the only one who never got hit by the ball. Yozora sympathized with her situation, suggesting that Yukimura was bullied because she appeared too feminine. If she looked more masculine, the bullying would probably stop. Yozora praised Yukimura's determination to stand up against injustice. She allowed Yukimura to learn how to be more manly alongside Kodaka, but mentioned that Kodaka was already busy with the neighbor's club activities. Yozora then persuaded Yukimura to join the club, and Yukimura agreed. Seeing how Yozora convinced Yukimura so easily, Sena became annoyed because her own recruitment had been much less accommodating. Yozora told Kodaka to treat Yukimura as his subordinate, suggesting that doing so would make him a true delinquent. Yukimura was thrilled to become Kodaka's underling and even asked to call him Aniki, big brother. That night during dinner, Kodaka told Kobato about his club. He mentioned their 10-year-old club advisor and the feminine boy who had recently joined. Kobato felt irritated because lately Kodaka had been talking a lot about his club and no longer seemed interested in listening to what she had to say. The next morning, Yukimura brought food and manga for Kodaka. It turned out that Yozora had told Yukimura that a proper underling should provide food and delinquent-themed manga. Seeing this, the other students in the class quickly spread rumors that Kodaka was forcing Yukimura to buy him food. As Kodaka tried to chase after Yukimura to clear things up, he suddenly heard an explosion from the science lab. He immediately rushed there, carried an unconscious girl out of the lab, and took her to the student infirmary. After returning to his class, Kodaka started reading the manga Yukimura had given him. He found it interesting and planned to repay Yukimura for it. Not long after, the girl he had rescued entered the classroom. Recognizing him by his appearance, she introduced herself as Rika, a first-year student. She asked if it was true that Kodaka had carried her to the student infirmary. When Kodaka confirmed it, Rika thanked him for saving her life and said she wanted to give him something of equal value in return. Kodaka was puzzled and asked whether the contents of the beaker had really been that dangerous. Rika explained that while it wasn't extremely hazardous, it was a fast-acting sleeping gas. She added that if Kodaka hadn't brought her to the infirmary in time, someone might have taken advantage of her while she was unconscious. Hearing this, the other students in the class were shocked. Rika then began describing in vivid detail the kind of sexual assault she had read about in certain books, which made the other students uncomfortable and led them to believe that she had been assaulted. Kodaka quickly pulled Rika out of the classroom and spoke to her near the stairs. He scolded her for talking about such things in public. Rika, however, insisted that he had saved her virginity and wanted to repay him somehow. Kodaka firmly refused her offer. Still trying to repay her debt, Rika then suggested fixing Kodaka's hair, which looked like a bad dye job. Kodaka explained that his hair color was natural, inherited from his English mother, and he had no intention of changing it. Rika plucked a strand of his hair, saying she was interested in his DNA. After that, she returned to the science lab, which she considered her classroom. Before leaving, Rika told Kodaka not to look at her that way because it made her feel embarrassed. She also asked for his name and mentioned that it was the first time she'd ever been interested in a mammal. Later that day in the club room, Yukimura served Kodaka a drink while wearing a maid outfit. Kodaka was confused about why Yukimura was dressed like that. Yukimura explained that he was training to become a true man, as Yozora had told him that a real man's aura of masculinity would shine through no matter what he wore. Kodaka was bewildered by Yozora's strange teachings. Yozora then jokingly asked why Kodaka had assaulted an innocent underclassman. Kodaka denied it, explaining that Rika simply had issues with other people, which was why she spent so much time in the science lab. Sana, who had been listening, revealed that the underclassman Kodaka rescued was actually a genius inventor named Rika. Apparently, Rika had been able to create electronics, medicines, and computer programs since grade school, which she sold for profit. Because of her exceptional talents, Sana's father had allowed her to attend their school without joining regular classes, and the science lab had been specially designated as her personal classroom. Kodaka asked whether it was okay for a student to receive VIP treatment like that, but for Sana, it was only natural that special people should be treated better than the average crowd. She even said that she should have a special room made just for her. Not long after, Rika arrived at the club room to see Kodaka. She wanted to join the neighbors club and had already prepared the application form. Yozora asked if Rika was aware that the neighbors club had the highest imaginable goal and that there were requirements to be fulfilled to achieve it. Rika asked if that goal was to make friends. Kodaka was surprised at how Rika knew about it. It turned out that Rika had deciphered the hidden message on the poster. Yozora considered Rika to have met the requirements, and thus, Rika was officially accepted into the neighbors club. Rika was delighted because this meant she could see Kodaka every day after school. She also asked the others not to get in the way of her relationship with him. Kodaka then asked what was in the bag Rika was carrying. Rika casually replied that it was a porn magazine. Everyone was shocked that Rika had brought a porn magazine to school. Rika explained that the magazine aroused her and that she couldn't hold herself back. When they opened the magazine, it was actually filled with robot illustrations. Sana was confused, wondering what part of it was supposed to be lewd. Rika explained that it was about Twinsy and Unit 02. She eagerly read aloud a steamy scene where Twinsy asked if Unit 02 liked his high mega bazooka, and Unit 02 expressed how good it felt to have Twinsy's hard, thick equipment inside her. Rika sounded extremely excited, describing it as if she were exploding into the universe. She even said she would never get bored of rereading the scene while imagining the robot's expressions. Yozora called her weird, but Rika replied that she already knew no one would understand her. Without hesitation, Rika grabbed Kodaka's hand and boldly asked if he wanted to have sex with her. Yozora was shocked by Rika's lewd proposition. Rika then asked if Yozora had ever heard the term sex friends, to which Yozora of course replied that she hadn't. Yozora strictly forbade such behavior, saying that immoral friendships like that were unacceptable. However, Rika countered by reminding Yozora that she herself had said that men and women couldn't be normal friends. Yozora shouted that it wasn't true. Sana, curious, asked what was wrong with Yozora, but Yozora insisted that it was nothing. Meanwhile, Rika invited Kodaka to start doing things together. Suddenly, Yukimura felt a burning sensation in her chest as she watched Kodaka and Rika's closeness. Yozora regretted that everything had gone awry because of a single piece of paper on her poster. Sana, on the other hand, seemed displeased with how quickly Rika had attached herself to Kodaka. During dinner at home with Kobato, Kodaka talked about Maria, the club advisor who loves eating potato chips, even though he thinks potato chips aren't good if consumed continuously. Kobato didn't seem interested in the conversation. She even called Kodaka a part of the noble children of the night forever and warned that if he kept hanging out with the church's minions, disaster would soon befall him. The next morning, when Kobato woke up, she saw Kodaka busy cooking a variety of dishes. Kobato said that thanks to Kodaka's resurrection magic, she had awakened from her eternal slumber. Seeing the large amount of food Kodaka prepared, Kobato remarked that the morning offering looked quite luxurious. Kodaka explained that not all the food was for breakfast, he had also prepared lunchboxes. Kobato was delighted and thanked her older brother for going through the trouble of making her a lunchbox. She even wondered if he had finally acknowledged her greatness and decided to offer her a worthy tribute. Kodaka mentioned that he also made a lunchbox for Maria, who eats unhealthy food just like he had told her the night before. He said Kobato could take some too, but Kobato was annoyed that her offering seemed less important than Maria's. That day, Kodaka went to the club room to meet Maria. Maria was surprised since it was unusual for Kodaka to arrive so early. Seeing Maria eating potato chips again, Kodaka immediately scolded her for eating unhealthy food every day. Maria complained that the food prepared by the nuns tasted bad, and Kobato had even filled a cupboard with potato chips, which she earned by following Yozora's orders. Kodaka handed her the lunchbox he had made. When Maria opened it, she asked if Kodaka had really made it himself. Instead of thanking him, she accused him of wanting something in return, perhaps a good reputation or power. Kodaka denied having any ulterior motives and even promised to make her another one tomorrow. Maria was delighted and called Kodaka a good person, even referring to him as a servant of God. Kodaka mentioned that Maria reminded him of his little sister when she was younger. Maria was surprised to learn that Kodaka had a younger sister, which explained why he felt like an older brother to her. As Kodaka prepared to return to class, he reminded Maria to stop eating so many potato chips. Maria thanked him and called him Big Brother. When the neighbors' club members gathered, Yozora mentioned that there was a rumor about Kodaka eating lunch earlier than usual. Yukimura apologized and asked if the food she had prepared wasn't enough. Kodaka reassured her that it was plenty and thanked her for the tea. Suddenly, Maria arrived and called Kodaka Big Brother. She praised the lunchbox he made, saying it was so delicious that, compared to it, the potato chips Yozora gave her tasted like garbage. She even mocked Yozora, who turned to her with a sharp glare that made Maria panic and quickly apologize. Rika asked if Kodaka was obsessed with little sisters to the point that he made Maria call him Big Brother. Kodaka clarified that it was Maria's idea. Maria confirmed this, saying that Kodaka was her real big brother, so she called him that. Meanwhile, Sana was engrossed in playing a video game and said that she wished she could live in a game world. Rika offered to make that dream come true, revealing that she was helping to develop a game and had access to its beta version. She invited everyone to try it out, and of course, Sana eagerly agreed. Rika handed out a device called a head-mounted display, a product from the company Large Hard, which would eventually be released along with the 3D fantasy RPG game Romancing Saga XIV in its beta version. They began the game, and the first view was breathtaking. The game opened with a stunning scene of the Saga region on the edge of the borderlands. The introduction told the story of the Saga governor, who sought to bring about the end of the world by summoning the Demon King from another realm to destroy the world with his powers. The opening scene of the video features Valhalla Castle. Rika asks to skip the opening and jump straight into the game, even though Yozora really wants to listen to the explanation of the Valhalla saga. Rika insists they create characters and choose jobs. Kodaka chooses the job of a wizard, and Rika's character greets him. Kodaka compliments Rika's appearance, and she explains that she chose the job of a gunner, which is why her character looks the way it does. Rika also praises Kodaka's appearance and suggests he open the equipment menu to check out his character. When Kodaka does, he is shocked by how casual his character looks despite choosing to be a wizard. Rika jokes that according to the internet, if a man remains a virgin until 30, he becomes a wizard, and she thinks Kodaka fits that image perfectly. Kodaka is also surprised that he doesn't have any magic skills. Suddenly, Sana arrives and asks why their appearances are so strange. Kodaka glances at Sana's character and says she isn't in a position to criticize anyone's look. Curious, Sana opens her equipment menu and is shocked by how revealing her character's outfit is, even though she chose the job of a blacksmith. She complains that a blacksmith should have a more practical and decent appearance. Yozora then appears in a rose-themed costume, having chosen the job of Rose Woman. She seems to like it because of the impressive power it provides. Yukimura also shows up wearing a samurai outfit that makes her look stronger. Sana, Yozora, and Yukimura are all long-range fighters, while Rika is also a long-range attacker. Meanwhile, Kodaka is practically useless. Maria appears next as a healer who stands in the backline, proudly declaring that a servant of God is always a servant of God. Once everyone is ready, they set off on their adventure. Before long, they arrive in front of the Demon King's residence, Valhalla Castle. Rika mentions that in offline mode, the Demon King is defeated during the tutorial. Soon after, a swarm of monsters appears, resembling disgusting aliens. Kodaka identifies them as Warasubo, a type of eel-like fish from area near Kyushu, which he once ate when he was in Kyushu. Rika explains that the Warasubo army is the weakest enemy in the game and that the developers probably modeled them after the fish because of their alien-like appearance. Sana raises her giant hammer, ready to smash the monsters, but Kodaka stops her. He feels sorry for the Warasubo army, thinking it's unfair to label them as monsters just because they look strange. He even suggests they let the Warasubo army go. Rika and Maria comment on how kind Kodaka is, while Yozora and Sana tease him, wondering if he identifies with the Warasubo. Kodaka is touched by their comments. Without warning, Rika fires her bullets at the monsters, Yozora hurls her thorns, and Sana smashes them with her hammer. Rika acknowledges Kodaka's feelings, but says they need to defeat the monsters to advance in the game. Yozora adds that the monsters' deaths won't be in vain because they'll turn into EXP for the players. Maria and Yukimura also join in to finish off the Warasubo army. Kodaka wonders why the Warasubo aren't fighting back. Rika explains that their programming isn't finished yet, so they don't have attack patterns. Kodaka finds it cruel, especially since Warasubo are actually delicious despite their terrifying appearance. Rika then informs everyone that their levels have increased. As a result, their abilities improve, and even Kodaka, despite not participating in the battle, gains a magic skill. His new skill allows him to do nothing and change nothing. If he simply believes, nothing will happen. They kept defeating the Warasubo monster army and eventually reached Valhalla Castle. As they entered, the castle appeared incredibly vast, and soon they encountered the demon king Warasubo. Sena wondered why the monster suddenly attacked, and according to Rika, it was probably because the pre-battle dialogue hadn't been written yet. Without hesitation, Rika fired a bullet at the Monster King, but it had no effect. Sena swung her giant hammer at the Monster King, but he quickly blocked the attack, sending Sena crashing to the ground. Kodaka immediately asked if Sena was okay, and she replied that she had lost half of her health points. Kodaka called out to Maria to heal Sena, but Maria remained silent. Rika casually mentioned that Maria was actually napping on the sofa. Yozora called Maria a useless kid, but Sena argued that the battle would be more exciting without a healer. Yozora remarked that if she used her rose gold skill, she could block one of the monster's piercing attacks, and she instructed Sena to face the monster head-on. Just as Sena was about to strike, Yozora became distracted by how realistic the castle walls looked. In the next moment, Sena was killed by the monster. It turned out Yozora had only said she could block the attack, but never actually planned to use her skill. Kodaka was baffled since Yozora had been the one who ordered Sena to charge forward, but it became clear that Yozora just wanted Sena to die. Sena's ghostly form appeared and tried to punch Yozora, but failed before fading away. The giant monster advanced toward them, prompting Yozora to activate her rose gold skill. Since she couldn't use the skill continuously, she instructed Rika and Yukimura to attack the monster from the sides while she held him off. Unfortunately, before they could strike, Yozora's shield vanished. She tried to activate the rose gold skill again, but failed and was killed by the monster. It turned out that Sena had been distracting Yozora in real life by tickling her. The monster then turned its attention to Rika and Yukimura. As Yukimura was defeated, she felt honored to die in battle, while Rika complained that the game was totally unbalanced. Kodaka was the only player left standing. Just as he was about to select his skill to attack the monster, Maria suddenly appeared and called out to him. Distracted, Kodaka was struck by a powerful blow from the monster. Instead of attacking the monster, Maria scolded it for hurting Kodaka. However, her lecture was cut short when the monster blasted her, causing her to die. With that, the game came to an end. When Kodaka removed his head-mounted display, he saw Kobato in the clubroom. She had come to check on him because he was late coming home. To her surprise, he had been playing a childish game. Sena curiously asked who the girl who resembled Iris was, speculating that she might be an acquaintance of Kodaka's. Kodaka introduced the little girl as his younger sister, Kobato, but Sena found it hard to believe that Kodaka had such a cute little sister. Kodaka asked why Kobato had come to the clubroom, and she complained that he had been neglecting her ever since he started hanging out with those useless people. Rika then asked if Kobato was upset that Kodaka prioritized the club over his little sister and wanted to know what was really going on. Sena teasingly called Kobato a bro-con, brother complex, saying she was as cute as Rika-chan from Mofu. Yozora scolded Sena for comparing her to a game character, calling it disgusting. Kodaka admitted that he had been coming home late recently and offered to cook tonkatsu ramen for Kobato every Sunday to make up to her. Delighted, Kobato eagerly agreed. Kodaka promised to make delicious meals and even pack her a lunch. At the mention of lunch, Kobato's mood suddenly darkened. Out of nowhere, Maria called Kodaka Big Brother and asked if the Demon King had been defeated. She was relieved to see that Kodaka was still alive. Kodaka asked if Maria was half asleep, and Maria suddenly realized that her game was already over. She apologized for not being able to protect Kodaka. Seeing how close Maria and Kodaka were, Kobato shouted, calling him an idiot. Hearing that, Maria called Kobato an idiot herself and asked what was wrong with her. Kodaka told Maria that Kobato was his younger sister. Kobato was annoyed because Maria referred to Kodaka as Big Brother, and she refused to acknowledge that she was his little sister. Instead, she claimed that she was a being born from the darkness of night 10,000 years ago who had long ceased battling the church's dogs. Kobato said that humanity feared her and called her a vampire. Maria asked why a vampire like her had come to that place. Kobato replied that she was there to make sure her big brother wouldn't be further poisoned by the church's minions. Despite the tension, Kobato became interested in joining their club. However, Kodaka pointed out that his sister was still in middle school. Sena argued that there were no rules against middle schoolers joining the club, and Yozora agreed, saying there was no reason to object, especially since Kobato seemed to have no friends. Kobato claimed that her only companion was the darkness of night. Maria objected, questioning why a vampire like Kobato should join their club. In response, Kobato asked if Maria was trying to steal her big brother away. Maria declared that Kodaka was a servant of God who made her lunch. The two started bickering with their wild imaginations, while the others could only watch. Eventually, they brought out a head-mounted display. It turned out that playing the game was pointless, as Yozora and Sana ended up arguing about their actions in the game. Kodaka remarked that they probably shouldn't have invited them in the first place, but Rika was happy since it was her first time playing a game with others. Rika even teased Yozora, saying her squeals when tickled were cute, which prompted Sana to mock her. Later that night, while Kodaka was sleeping, Kobato came into his room, lay down beside him, and quietly declared that Kodaka was her big brother and hers alone. When Kodaka was a child, his father told him that they would soon be moving away from the city. While Kodaka was hanging out with his childhood friend, his friend noticed that Kodaka had been acting a little strange lately. Kodaka said he had something to tell his friend and asked to meet the next day to talk about it. His friend also had something important to share, so they agreed to meet 2 days before Kodaka moved. Unfortunately, on that day, his childhood friend never showed up, even though Kodaka waited until sunset. In the end, Kodaka left the city without saying goodbye to his one and only friend. That morning, Kodaka woke up and saw Kobato sleeping beside him. He immediately opened his bedroom window to look at the view outside. That day, the members of the neighbors' club were talking about the upcoming summer vacation. Yozora reminded everyone that the club's goal was to make friends, so she asked if any of them had made friends to spend their youthful summer with. Kodaka said that his reputation had only gotten worse since joining the club. Sana even mentioned that her classmates were gossiping that she was dating Kodaka. Rika then asked what kind of activities the club used to do before she joined. Kodaka said they mostly just played video games, but Yozora added that they also did acting exercises and played other games. Sana suddenly thought about karaoke and asked if anyone had ever been to one. Kodaka admitted that he had gone a few times at his previous school, and to everyone's surprise, Yozora also said she had been to karaoke before. Kodaka found it hard to believe since Yozora didn't seem like the type to enjoy karaoke. However, Yozora explained that she often went and even knew where to find a good karaoke spot in the city. Kodaka guessed that Yozora must have gone alone, but she revealed that she actually went with her wind-loving friend Tomo. She described Tomo as not only being a great singer, but also someone who enjoyed listening and keeping the atmosphere lively even as time flew by. Kodaka then asked if Sana had ever been to karaoke. Trying to maintain her image, Sana claimed she had never gone because she saw it as a place for poor people and wasn't interested at all. She even said that when no one invited her during middle school, she didn't feel sad about it. Kodaka told Sana not to get so worked up. Rika admitted that she had never been to karaoke either, but really wanted to try it. Since she wasn't used to going to crowded places alone, she asked Kodaka to go with her, and he agreed. Yozora offered to organize a karaoke outing since she knew a good place. Kodaka didn't mind, but Rika felt a bit annoyed because she had hoped to go alone with him. Yukimura also confessed that she had never been to karaoke, and Kobato excitedly mentioned that she had a burning desire to sing songs of chaos. Yozora then asked when they should go, suggesting the next afternoon. Everyone agreed to meet at the West Station before 1 p.m. because the karaoke place offered a free time package starting at 1 p.m. As they planned, Sana joined the conversation, but Yozora teasingly reminded her that they were talking about karaoke, which was a poor people activity that shouldn't interest someone as rich and dignified as her. Blushing, Sana mumbled something under her breath. Yozora told everyone to gather before 1 p.m., emphasizing the free time package. Feeling left out, Sana asked them not to ignore her. Yozora sarcastically pointed out that Sana had already said she wasn't interested in karaoke. Sana, flustered, tried to deny it, but Kodaka encouraged her to be honest. Yozora then directly asked Sana if she wanted to join them. Trembling, Sana finally admitted that she wanted to go. But Yozora, being her mischievous self, made Sana say it louder. Sana repeated herself several times, yelling that she wanted to go to karaoke. Yozora, pretending to be touched by her sincerity, still refused to let her join and even told her to beg from the bottom of her heart. Desperate, Sana shouted her request over and over again, only for Yozora to reject her in the end. Sana was annoyed and asked what Yozora actually wanted. She said that she would still come tomorrow and questioned why she needed Yozora's permission. Yozora sarcastically asked why Sana had only realized it now, saying her brain must be broken. Frustrated, Sana called Yozora an idiot and stormed off. After Sana left, Yozora invited the others to decide on the actual time and place for karaoke. Kodaka called Yozora a devil, but it turned out Yozora was just joking. During dinner with her father, Sena told her butler to prepare her lunch earlier the next day because she had plans at 1 o'clock. The butler asked if she had plans with her friends, but Sena clarified that they weren't friends, just club members, and it wouldn't be complete without her. She also mentioned that they were going to karaoke and confidently stated that Kodaka and Yozora would submit to her once they heard her beautiful voice. She even wanted to do with Kobato. The next day, Kodaka and Kobato arrived at West Tuya Station. Kodaka asked if Kobato wasn't hot wearing such an outfit, but Kobato proudly said that as an ancient ancestor, she could even control the flames of hell. When Kodaka saw that everyone else was already waiting, Yozora suggested they get going. Kodaka complimented them for arriving so early, especially since it was still 10 minutes to 1. Yozora explained that she arrived 5 minutes after Rika. Yukimura arrived 20 minutes before Kodaka. Rika arrived 15 minutes before Sena, and Sena had been waiting 5 minutes before Yukimura. Kodaka found it strange, as if they were giving him a quiz. He jokingly asked if he was supposed to figure out everyone's arrival time based on the clues, assuming he and Kobato arrived at 12:50. Yozora told Kobato to solve the puzzle before they reached the karaoke place to keep her occupied. The karaoke place was called The Scream from the Deep Sea. Kodaka paused for a moment when he saw 2 little kids playing together, which made him remember his childhood friend. Shortly after, they arrived at the venue, and Yozora immediately ordered a free time package with a drink bar. The karaoke staff calculated the cost for 6 people, totaling 5,400 yen. Yozora was surprised by the price. The staff explained that the free time package cost 650 yen and the drink bar was 250 yen, making it 900 yen per person. Yozora was suspicious of the pricing and questioned why they were being charged 650 yen per person when they were all sharing one room. She argued that if one person could sing 30 songs, 6 people would still only sing a total of 30 songs in the same room. So why do they have to pay 6 times the price? Sena agreed, calling it a scam. Yozora mentioned that such a thing never happened when she went with Tomo. Kodaka pointed out that Tomo wasn't exactly a normal person and that karaoke prices had always been like that. Sena, siding with Yozora, said her father had once warned her to be cautious of suspicious financial transactions. She then whispered an idea to Yozora, who seemed intrigued. Yozora returned to the counter and ordered the free time package and drink bar for just one person, and Sena followed suit, surprising the staff. Kodaka was bewildered by their actions. Rika suggested that maybe Yozora and Sena wanted to sing in separate rooms. When it was Kodaka's turn to order, he requested the package for 4 people, shocking both Yozora and Sena, while earning the gratitude of the karaoke staff. Rika and Yukimura were thrilled because it meant they could do it with Kodaka. Feeling awkward, Yozora and Sena quickly left for their room. After arriving at the karaoke room, Kodaka immediately started singing while Yozora and Sena remained silent in their respective rooms. Once Kodaka finished his song, Yukimura praised him, calling him impressive, and Rika complimented his good voice. When it was Rika's turn to sing, Kodaka couldn't help but wonder if Yozora and Sena were singing alone. Meanwhile, Yozora and Sena were busy selecting the songs they would perform. After finishing her song, Rika asked Kodaka if he was feeling aroused, to which Kodaka firmly replied that he wasn't. Yukimura then announced that she would dedicate a song to Kodaka, and he cheered her on. While Yukimura sang, Kodaka started to worry whether Yozora and Sena would be angry if he went over to listen to them. After Yukimura's performance, it was Kobato's turn, and she delivered a sweet and melodious song. Not long after, Yozora and Sena unexpectedly began singing the same song at the same time, which reminded them of moments they had shared with Kodaka. When their karaoke session ended, everyone left the karaoke room. Kodaka carried Kobato, who had fallen fast asleep after singing. His throat felt sore from all the singing, while Rika and Yukimura continued to praise his voice. Seeing Yozora and Sena sitting far apart, Kodaka asked what was wrong. Yozora blamed Sena, while Sena insisted it was Yozora's fault. Puzzled, Kodaka asked how many songs they had sung. It turned out they had been competing using the scoring mode. After one song, Sena noticed that all the top spots were occupied by someone named Knight and immediately realized it was Yozora. Yozora admitted she had filled all the highest rankings herself but was annoyed when Sena's name started appearing. Kodaka was surprised that the two of them managed to argue despite being in separate rooms. Rika then asked who had won between them, and naturally both Yozora and Sena claimed victory. Yozora proudly stated that she held the first position with a score of 99, but Sena dismissed it as a fluke, pointing out that the 2nd through 11th spots were all her scores of 98. Their argument about karaoke scores continued while Kodaka and the others stepped outside, waiting for them to finish. Rika found the whole thing amusing and suggested to Kodaka that they should go karaoke again sometime. As they all walked home together, Yukimura mentioned that the club activities for the first trimester were over. Rika lamented that she wouldn't be able to make out with Kodaka for 40 days, prompting Kodaka to ask her to stop saying things that might make people think they had ever made out. Yukimura also declared that she could no longer be Kodaka's servant. Yozora then said that club activities would continue during the summer break since sports and arts clubs also held activities during that time. She emphasized that summer was the season for the popular kids, and if they wanted to become one of them, they needed to train hard to survive once things got serious. Rika jokingly asked if it was like a glass breaking when hot water is poured into it, and Yozora immediately agreed, though Kodaka dryly pointed out that it was just thermal expansion. Yozora told the club members to meet again on Monday and to reflect on why they still hadn't made any friends. Suddenly, Seneo blurted out that their failure was entirely due to Yozora's incompetence. In response, Yozora blamed their lack of success on Sena's stupidity, her annoying and useless nature, and even claimed that Sena's very existence was a negative force both in the club and the world. Seeing their argument escalating, Kodaka and the others quietly slipped away, leaving Yozora and Sena behind. Their heated exchange even attracted the attention of passersby. As the crowd began watching, Kodaka warned Rika and Yukimura not to turn around. Realizing that people were staring at her, Sena ran off, calling Yozora an idiot as she fled. Kodaka and the others kept walking until the sky started to darken. As they walked, Kodaka reflected on how the club activities had been going on for a month now, and how it all started with Yozora. He felt grateful to Yozora because the past month of club activities had been a lot of fun. Not long after, Sena came running up to Kodaka. She had just remembered a message from her father. Sena told Kodaka that during dinner the previous night, her father mentioned that Kodaka was welcome to visit any time during the summer. It also seemed like her father wanted to meet Kodaka. Kodaka replied that he would drop by sometime, and Sena asked him to let her know in advance. Yozora, curious, asked why Kodaka would be going to Sena's house and meeting her father. Just as Kodaka was about to explain, Sena quickly cut in and asked him to keep it a secret for now. Kodaka agreed to keep quiet. He also realized that it would be best if no one found out that the school's owner had used their authority to get him admitted. Yozora, still curious, wanted to know the secret, but Sena brushed her off, saying it had nothing to do with her. Whether Kodaka visited her house or met her father was none of Yozora's business. After that, Sena said goodbye and told Kodaka she would be waiting for his visit. As the group continued on their way, Yozora remained silent, lost in thought. That afternoon during summer vacation, Kodaka was about to head to the clubroom, and Kobato walked him to the front door. Kodaka asked if Kobato was really going to wear such long clothes in the scorching heat. Kobato replied that as an ancient ancestor, she could even withstand the fiery heat of hell. Still, that day felt unbearably hot. Suddenly, Kobato cursed the sun and quickly shut the door to their house. When Kodaka arrived at the clubroom, he immediately felt the cool air inside after walking under the blazing sun. Yukimura greeted him, and Yozora asked why he arrived so late. Kodaka explained that he came at the usual after-school time, but Yozora pointed out that since it was summer vacation, there was no reason to stick to that schedule. Curious, Kodaka asked when they had arrived at the clubroom. Yozora said she came at 1 p.m., and when she arrived, Sena was already playing a game. Yukimura mentioned that Sena had arrived a few minutes before Yozora, while Yukimura herself had been there since 8 a.m. Yukimura declared that if she ever failed to arrive before Kodaka, she would commit seppuku. Kodaka, feeling a bit exasperated, told Yukimura not to take things so seriously in the neighbor's club. Yukimura then offered Kodaka some bread for lunch, but he told her that he had already eaten at home. He also asked her not to bring him lunch during summer vacation. Hearing this, Yukimura assumed that Kodaka no longer needed her and insisted that if she were no longer useful, she would have to end her life with seppuku. Kodaka quickly reassured her, saying that she was still needed. Suddenly, Maria burst into the room and asked if Kodaka wasn't going to eat the bread. That's when he realized that Maria must have been waiting for the lunch Yukimura had prepared. Kodaka asked if Maria could eat the bread instead, and he also requested that Yukimura prepare lunch for Maria during summer vacation instead of him. However, Yukimura refused, saying that a warrior's heart could not be divided between two masters. Kodaka argued that since he considered Maria like his little sister, taking care of his sister shouldn't count as serving two masters. Hearing this, Yukimura agreed and even considered it an honor. Maria, thrilled to be treated like Kodaka's little sister, happily accepted the bread. As she ate, she was amazed by how delicious the supermarket bread was and how impressive the ingredients seemed. Kodaka, however, commented that the bread didn't seem very healthy. He asked Yukimura to prepare something healthier for Maria next time. Yozora chimed in, joking that if you pamper a pet too much, it becomes harder to train them. The next day, Kodaka returned to the club room. When he arrived, Yukimura greeted him as usual. Noticing that only Yukimura was there, Kodaka asked where everyone else was. Yukimura explained that Yozora and Sena hadn't arrived yet, and Maria had suddenly remembered she had work to do at the church. Kodaka then asked if Yukimura had prepared food for Maria, to which Yukimura proudly responded that she had prepared a healthy meal as requested. It turned out the meal was pure protein. Yukimura even mentioned that she had forced Maria to eat every last bite without mercy. Through this experience, Yukimura claimed she now understood how Hashime Hideyoshi must have felt when he sentenced Manpukumaru to death. Manpukumaru was the son of Azae Nagamasa, whose family was destroyed by Oda Nobunaga, and he was crucified at the age of 10. It was no surprise that he cried and screamed during his execution. Kodaka shuddered at the thought of Maria being forced to eat in such a way. Concerned, he told Yukimura to let Maria eat whatever she wanted as long as it didn't contain any harmful chemicals. He also pleaded with her not to repeat the tragedy of Manpukumaru. Yukimura followed the order. Kodaka fell asleep in the club room until the afternoon, and it turned out no one else came that day. That evening, Yukimura said goodbye and went home. The next day, when Kodaka arrived at the club room, everyone was there. He asked why they didn't come yesterday. Rika immediately asked if Kodaka felt lonely without her there. Yozora said she was busy yesterday, while Sena mentioned she had a rough day. Sena explained that the ending of her Galbian was approaching, and although she initially planned to leave after finishing it, she ended up playing for another 4 hours because the scenes were so touching, especially the conclusion of Mikane's route. Sena offered to lend the game to Kodaka and insisted that he play it. She even told him to start over after getting one ending. Yozora almost hit Sena for being too noisy. Kodaka then suggested they find a way to keep track of who comes to the club room and who doesn't. Yozora and Sena both agreed it was a great idea. Kodaka proposed using an online forum, but Yozora and Sena immediately rejected the idea. Yozora said she only used the internet for shopping and research. Although she had tried using forums before, she had recently stopped. Kodaka understood her reasoning. As for Sena, she had a bad experience on an online forum and refused to use one again. Just remembering it made her angry. People on the forum called her a troll, someone who posts controversial comments to provoke others. Kodaka asked why she argued with people online, and Sena explained that the argument started when netizens called Natsumi a musclehead with no brains. According to Sena, even though Natsumi might seem that way, she was actually very gentle. Sena believed that anyone saying otherwise in front of her was basically declaring war, and she had no choice but to fight until the netizens either apologized or she was defeated. Kodaka then suggested using a popular social networking site called Nixie. Sena asked if Kodaka had already signed up and requested that he invite her. Kodaka admitted he hadn't registered yet, and none of the others had either. Rika pointed out that to join Nixie, you needed to have real-life friends first. Kodaka mentioned that there were other social networks that didn't require invitations. Rika then asked why they didn't just use their phones to keep in touch. This idea struck everyone as surprisingly simple but effective. Kodaka realized that phones could do more than just call home, and Yozora realized they weren't only for finding karaoke places. Yozora even admitted that Rika was a genius for coming up with the idea. Rika suggested they exchange contact information. When they checked Kodaka's phone, it only had his home number and Kobato's number saved. Everyone except Sena took out their phones to exchange contacts. Rika told them to turn on their infrared features to send contacts automatically. However, Kodaka and Yozora didn't know how to activate it. Yukimura successfully turned on her phone's infrared and exchanged contacts with Rika. Rika was amazed at how fast data could be transferred. Kodaka couldn't believe how much technology had advanced, while Yozora joked that perhaps they were already living in a virtual age where people existed digitally and life itself was like a game. Rika found it amusing that despite being only a year older than her, Yozora and Kodaka were so amazed by modern technology. Yukimura remarked that someone like Kodaka relied on his own strength and didn't care about phones. Kodaka asked how Yukimura managed to activate the infrared feature, and Yozora, still struggling with hers, finally asked Kodaka to exchange contacts manually instead. Yozora and Kodaka exchanged contact information manually. While Yozora was typing on her phone, Sena stared at the two of them. Yozora sent a message to Kodaka, and soon after, it successfully went through. Kodaka saved Yozora's contact, feeling happy because she was the first person outside his family to be added to his phone. Yozora was surprised to be Kodaka's first non-family contact and asked if he had never saved the numbers of his middle school friends. Kodaka admitted that he never did, and although some of his classmates mentioned they would message him, he never gave them his contact information. Yozora remarked that she didn't even have her own family's contact information, meaning Kodaka was the first person she had saved. Rika suggested it would be easier if she taught them how to use infrared to exchange contacts, but seeing how happy they were, she felt like she was losing out. Suddenly, Senna blurted out in frustration, annoyed at how excited Yozora and Kodaka were just because of their phones. Kodaka, confused by her reaction, asked for Sana's contact, but to his surprise, she didn't own a phone. Sana insisted that she wasn't jealous of people who had phones. She also mentioned that the girls in her class laughed like idiots when talking about their phones, and she believed that a graceful woman like herself didn't need such things. Sana even declared that wherever and whenever she spoke, the commoners should be grateful just to hear the voice of an angel. Kodaka simply called her dramatic. Out of nowhere, Kodaka's phone rang, who was Yozora calling, asking him to save her number. Just as Kodaka was about to hang up, Yozora suggested they continue talking on the phone. She then asked what he had for dinner the previous night. Hearing this, Sana grew irritated and shouted that no one cared about other people's dinner menus. Yozora told Sana to be quiet when someone was on a call. She pointed out that phones were convenient because they allowed people to talk from a distance. Sana, still annoyed, sarcastically told Yozora to go far away if she wanted to talk. Ignoring her, Yozora asked Kodaka to text her whenever he was coming to the clubroom. She also suggested they handle all club activities through messaging. Yozora then rambled on, slipping the word meat into every sentence to tease Sana. Sana, enraged by Yozora's constant meat remarks, snatched Kodaka's phone and shouted that Yozora was an idiot before running off. Kodaka commented that Yozora was incredibly skilled at pushing Sana's buttons. That evening, when Kodaka returned home, Kobato was already waiting for him. He started preparing dinner while checking his phone, feeling happy because his contact list had doubled in size that day. Later, while Kodaka was asleep, the house phone suddenly rang. He answered it, but the line went dead immediately. Assuming it was just a prank call, he went back to sleep. However, the phone rang again shortly after. When he picked up, he heard a nervous voice. It was Sana. She scolded him, saying his voice scared her. Then she asked about the brand and model of his phone. Kodaka admitted he didn't remember the details, but Sana insisted he check right away. Reluctantly, he did and found out it was an M61B model made by AU. Satisfied, Sana hung up. The next morning, Kodaka took the bus to school. He was startled when he noticed the passenger sitting directly in front of him was reading an adult magazine. At the same time, Rika sent him a text claiming she was waiting for him naked and asking if he was imagining her. She even sent him a picture of a small, cute butt, adding that Yozora was also naked. Yozora then messaged him to clarify that the picture Rika sent was just an arm. Despite Yozora's warning about Rika's perverted nature, Rika kept sending him more inappropriate messages. When Kodaka finally arrived at the clubroom, Yozora reminded him to be cautious because Rika was extremely lewd. Rika told Kodaka that she had recently become interested in the world of Yuri, relationships, as long as it involved something erotic, she could enjoy it. Not long after, Yukimura served tea for Kodaka. Kodaka and Yozora stayed in the clubroom until the evening, while the others had already left due to personal matters, so Kodaka invited Yozora to head home. Suddenly, Sana arrived at the clubroom, but Yozora chose to go back to sleep. Sana eagerly showed off her new phone, which her father had bought for her the night before. Kodaka was surprised to see that her phone was identical to his, even down to the color. Sana claimed it was just a coincidence. She then suggested exchanging contacts with Kodaka. When Kodaka asked if she knew how to activate the infrared feature, they proceeded to exchange contacts via infrared. Sana told Yozora that she could have her contact information too, but Yozora flatly refused, saying she didn't need it. Sana insisted that Yozora should take it, but Yozora sarcastically asked if Sana really wanted her contact that badly. Annoyed by Yozora's attitude, Sana retorted that she wasn't interested in Yozora's contact at all, but since they were in the same club, she thought Yozora might as well have it. Yozora mockingly thanked Sana, saying that just knowing how she felt was enough. This irritated Sana, and she snapped back that feelings alone weren't enough. Yozora then teased Sana, saying her face looked greedy, and challenged her to prove how much she wanted it. Rather than comply with Yozora's demand to lick her feet, Sana chose to leave. A little while later, Sana sent a message to Kodaka. She wanted to send an annoying message to Yozora and asked Kodaka to secretly give her Yozora's contact information. Yozora found out about it and told Kodaka to send her Seina's contact because she would give hers to Sena in return. Before long, Sena burst into the club room in tears. Her phone kept ringing non-stop and she couldn't make it stop. It turned out that her phone was receiving a flood of messages. Yozora quickly suggested to Kodaka that they should leave, but Sena continued crying and begged Kodaka for help, afraid that her new phone might break. Kodaka took Sena's phone to check it and reassured her, telling her not to cry. Seeing how concerned Kodaka was about Sena, Yozora grew visibly annoyed. That day, after finishing his grocery shopping at the mall, Kodaka noticed several young couples relaxing under the scorching sun. It reminded him that summer was the season for social butterflies. When he got home, he saw Kobato repeatedly pressing the air conditioner remote. It turned out the AC was broken. For the time being, Kodaka replaced it with a fan and told her that he had already ordered a new AC. When Kobato asked if the new AC had arrived, Kodaka replied that it would take 3 more days. Annoyed, Kobato grumbled about how useless people were and declared that for now she would enjoy a party in the purifying flames as she was Rice's V Felicity Sumeragi. So even if eternal flames enveloped her body, the honorable ruler of the night would feel no pain. Kodaka suggested that Kobato wear lighter clothes, but she insisted that her outfit was the embodiment of her dark powers and changing it was no simple task. Seeing his sister struggle in the heat, Kodaka decided to make her some barley tea. At that moment, Kobato was watching her favorite anime, which featured a scene where Rice's V Felicity Sumeragi transformed into her true form wearing a revealing outfit. While Kodaka was washing the dishes, Kobato suddenly tried to take off her long clothes. Kodaka reminded her to put them in the washing machine. Kobato then changed into casual clothes, proudly stating that this was her true form. Kodaka realized that his little sister was just imitating her favorite anime heroine. Before leaving to meet his club friends, Kodaka invited Kobato to join him. She agreed to come along. Kodaka teased her, asking if the clothes she was wearing were from her grade school days. Despite being halfway through middle school, her clothes still fit. He wondered if her growth was slow. Panicked, Kobato worried that her body wasn't growing at all. She then reassured herself, saying that as an immortal ruler of darkness, her body would never mature or age. Kodaka gently patted her head and said he was relieved that his little sister would never grow old. When they arrived at the club room, everyone greeted Kodaka. Maria immediately hugged him and excitedly shared that Yukimura had given her sushi that day and steak the day before. She praised Yukimura for being so kind. Yukimura explained that Kodaka had asked her to prepare food that Maria liked, so she did her best to get the best dishes. Kodaka admitted it was true, but thought Yukimura was going a bit overboard. Maria added that when Yukimura tried to force her to take strange medicine, she had sworn to God that she would cut off the crossdresser's finger, but she decided to let it go and thank Yukimura instead. Yukimura urged Maria to thank Kodaka as well. Seeing her brother getting along with Maria, Kobato became jealous and pushed Maria aside. Confused, Maria asked who the girl pushing her was. Kobato proudly introduced herself as Kodaka's younger sister. Maria almost fell for Kobato's demonic darkness disguise. The two girls started arguing until Kobato bit Maria's hand. Yozora, watching the scene, casually remarked that it was only natural for Kobato to bite, as she was a vampire. Kobato warned Maria that anyone bitten by a vampire would eventually turn into one. Hearing this, Maria burst into tears, fearing that she would become a vampire. Yozora, enjoying the chaos, told Maria that sunlight exposure right after being bitten could prevent the transformation, but it only worked if she was completely naked. Taking her words seriously, Maria quickly ran off to find sunlight and thank Yozora on her way out. Kodaka sighed and called Yozora a troublemaker, but Yozora simply said that Maria was an idiot. Sena then approached Kobato and complimented her, saying she was adorable. She asked why Kobato wasn't wearing her goth loli outfits anymore and wondered if she was trying to change her image. Kobato explained that her current outfit was meant to unleash her true powers. Although Sena didn't really understand what she meant, she adored how cute Kobato was, which made Kobato a bit nervous. Out of nowhere, Rika came up to Kobato and curiously asked what kind of underwear she was wearing, suggesting that they strip down and compare. Yozora immediately punched Sena for imagining a Kobato route in her dating sim, and also smacked Rika for being a pervert. That afternoon, Maria was running around completely naked while laughing and a nurse saw her. Meanwhile, in the club room, Kodaka mentioned that summer break felt boring without any activities. Yozora even wished they were given 10 times more homework just to avoid boredom. She wondered how other people spent their free time when there was nothing to do. Kodaka said that obviously they would hang out with their friends. Sana was playing her dating sim, and the scene on the screen showed a swimming pool event. Yozora, annoyed by the game's characters, said that if she were to create a game, she would add sharks to the pool scene. Sana told her to stop saying weird things. According to Yozora, a god-tier game would be one where sharks suddenly appear and tear apart all the girls in the pool. Sana argued that something like that would never happen, especially at a pool. Suddenly, the character in Sana's game screamed about a shark. They were all surprised, but Sana guessed it wasn't a real shark, maybe just a robot or a costume from the marina. However, as she continued playing, it turned out to be an actual giant great white shark in the pool. Sana assumed it was just meant as a joke, thinking the main character would defeat the shark and make the girls like him even more. Instead, the game ended with the girls getting torn apart by the sharks, and Yozora declared it truly was a god-tier game. Rika asked if the game was from Street John Academy because the bad endings in that series were notoriously brutal. She explained that if you missed a single flag in that game, it would immediately lead to a bad ending, and every bad ending involved an unexpected massacre. That was why the game had earned the nickname Idiot Game. Sana, frustrated, began breaking the game disc in half. Kodaka was surprised by how deep the world of dating sims could be. Sana then said she really wanted to go to a swimming pool. Yozora found it strange that Sana still wanted to go after watching her beloved game characters get eaten by sharks, and jokingly suggested that maybe Sana had a death wish. Sana dismissed the idea, saying the terrible game had nothing to do with her desire to go to the pool. Yozora teased her by suggesting that she was worried Sana's hidden talent as delicious meat might awaken. Out of nowhere, Kobato said she also wanted to go to the pool. Hearing that, Sana eagerly invited her to come along. Yozora immediately smacked Sana for showing such a perverted expression. In her mind, Yozora thought of pools as hangouts for popular people, and she believed they should only go once they had made some real friends. Sana argued that it wouldn't be a problem since she had already gone to Ryuhu Land with Kodaka. Kodaka suggested they could treat it as a club bonding activity, like a test run, and Yozora agreed. Rika then jokingly warned Kodaka not to get too excited when he saw her swimsuit. Kodaka suspected that Rika would just wear her swimsuit under her lab coat. However, Rika had other plans. She was thinking about wearing an ultra-sexy swimsuit to make Kodaka even more aroused. She could imagine herself in a low-leg swimsuit, a string bikini, a Brazilian bikini cape, and eventually going completely naked. That evening, Maria was being punished for her inappropriate behavior. The next day, the neighbors' club members planned to go to the pool. They met up near the bus stop, only to find a surprisingly long line. When they finally boarded the bus, there were no seats left. Kodaka wondered why the bus was so crowded, but his concern quickly shifted to Yozora, who looked extremely pale. Yozora felt nauseous not because of the bus ride, but because of the crowd. She said she wasn't feeling well and quickly covered her mouth. Kodaka handed her a plastic bag, but Yozora said she could hold it in. Rika mentioned that she was also holding herself back, claiming that being a hikikomori didn't mix well with crowds. However, she said she felt fine and if necessary would use Kodaka's lower body to recharge her energy. Rika even added that seeing Yozora struggling to hold back her nausea made her feel more excited. Meanwhile, Kobato was being smothered by Sana's chest pressing against her face. Sana tried to strike up a conversation with Kobato, offering to teach her how to swim and suggesting they have a swimming race, but Kobato flatly refused. Hearing that, Sana laughed at Kobato's tsundere-style rejection. When they arrived at the stop, Kodaka and the others felt relieved. Yozora said she could still manage her nausea, and Rika claimed she could handle it too. Sana commented that the water park was much more crowded than when she and Kodaka had visited before. Apparently, the hot weather was drawing everyone to the pool. Annoyed, Kobato cursed the sun, but declared that in her true form, the sun's power was nothing to her. She was eager to dive into the pool as soon as possible. It turned out that the crowd was due to a 50% discount. Yozora complained that they should have come last month. She'd rather pay double than deal with the crowd. She even said that discounts and limited-time sales should just be eliminated from the world. Kodaka urged everyone to head inside and bought tickets for the group. Sana suggested meeting near the showers after changing. When Kodaka and Yukimura entered the changing room, people around them were visibly surprised. Yukimura, feeling insecure, said she was still a weak follower who was looked down upon by other men. Kodaka reassured her that wasn't the issue and explained to the other people that Yukimura was actually a boy. Seeing Kodaka's intimidating face, the crowd quickly scattered and Yukimura praised him for being so impressive. Kodaka was confused about why Yukimura had brought a women's swimsuit. It turned out Yozora had advised her to wear it. Kodaka wondered why Yukimura followed Yozora's swimsuit advice so easily. Apparently, Yozora often told Yukimura that wearing a women's swimsuit would prove her masculinity outside her maid uniform, and Yukimura took it as a challenge. She had also brought a men's swimsuit just in case, but it turned out to be a fundoshi. Kodaka told Yukimura to just stick with the women's swimsuit, but Yukimura playfully offered the fundoshi to Kodaka instead, which she flatly refused. Meanwhile, in the girls' changing room, Sana offered to help Kobato change, but Kobato refused. Yozora and Rika still looked pale. While changing, Kodaka noticed Yukimura struggling with her zipper and helped her open it. Yozora tried to stay calm, reminding herself that Yukimura was a boy. When Yukimura took off her shirt, Kodaka was shocked, prompting Yukimura to cover her chest with both hands. Kodaka wondered why she was covering her chest since she was supposed to be a boy. Yukimura shyly explained that she was embarrassed about her lack of muscle definition but would show him if he insisted. Kodaka quickly declined and told her to finish changing. By the time they reached the showers, Sena and Kobato were already waiting. Kodaka apologized, explaining that there had been a minor issue in the changing room. Sena asked why Yukimura was wearing a women's swimsuit, but Kodaka said he had no idea either. He then asked where Yozora and Rika were. Sena explained that they were resting for a bit and would catch up later. Kobato, eager to swim, excitedly headed toward the pool. The pool area was extremely crowded, making it impossible for Kobato to have a proper race. Sena, visibly annoyed, grumbled about the crowd and even wondered if a shark would show up. Kodaka scolded her, telling her not to confuse reality with that dumb game. Once Yozora and Rika arrived, Kodaka planned to suggest trying out the wave pool or the water slide. However, Sena pointed out that the atmosphere was completely different from the time she and Kodaka had visited before. Kodaka mentioned that Sena was mad at him at the time, but he didn't really mind. In fact, he even asked her if she had thanked him when they parted ways. Sena quickly changed the subject by asking why Yozora and Rika hadn't shown up yet, and she went off to check on them. Kodaka wondered why Sena seemed so restless. Suddenly, Kodaka recalled the time when the neighbors' club only had him, Yozora, and Sena as members, but now the club had grown. He admitted that while none of them had made any real friends yet, they had all started to change in their own ways. Out of nowhere, Sena returned to Kodaka and told him that Yozora had sent her a message saying that she and Rika had already gone home. Kodaka immediately ran outside and saw Yozora and Rika sitting on the bus as it pulled away. Sena was frustrated since she had wanted to show off her beautiful swimming style. Kodaka couldn't help but be puzzled by how Yozora still hadn't changed. Not long after, Yukimura and Kobato caught up with them. In the end, they all decided to head home and waited together at the bus stop. Throughout the ride, none of the four spoke a word to each other as everyone seemed lost in thought. That day, there were no new entries in the neighbors' club activity log. That afternoon, while Kodaka and Kobato were enjoying their lunch, Kodaka's phone suddenly buzzed with a message notification. It was from Yozora, inviting them to meet in the club room at 2 p.m. and to bring their swimsuits. After finishing their lunch, Kodaka and Kobato immediately headed to the club room. On the way, Kobato suddenly clung to Kodaka, trying to avoid Sena, who was approaching and calling out to her. Sena greeted Kobato and tried to start a conversation, but Kobato hid behind Kodaka to avoid her. Sena, however, laughed cheerfully and said that Kobato didn't want to play with her. Kodaka then asked Sena if she had brought a swimsuit, and she replied that Yozora had told her to bring one. When they arrived at the club room, they were surprised to see someone wearing a horse mask sitting there. Kobato exclaimed that she never imagined she would find the demon Astaroth in that place, especially since Ivor Gates should have been destroyed in the final battle between gods and demons. Sena called the masked girl Yozora, and only then did Kodaka realize that the person behind the horse mask was indeed Yozora. Yozora confirmed Sena's guess. Sena, confused, asked Yozora what she was doing and even called her stupid. In response, Yozora walked up to Sena and slapped her cheek with the horse mask's muzzle. Annoyed, Sena retaliated. Kodaka also had no idea what Yozora was trying to accomplish. Shortly after, Rika and Yukimura arrived with Yukimura already wearing her swimsuit. Yozora explained that she had gathered everyone with their swimsuits to ensure the swimsuits she had bought would not go to waste. Sena blamed Yozora and Rika for leaving so quickly the day before, but Kodaka pointed out that he and the others also left immediately because the pool was too crowded, so they couldn't do anything. Yozora was surprised to learn that Kodaka and the others had left right away. Kodaka then questioned why Yozora was wearing a horse mask and a zebra-patterned swimsuit that covered her entire body. Yozora explained that she felt embarrassed to show her skin in public and that wearing the horse mask would keep people from seeing her face. Kodaka remarked that Yozora would probably get a warning if she entered the pool like that. However, Yozora argued that there was no rule against wearing a mask in the pool. Sena pointed out that there were rules against bringing weird items into the pool. Yozora shot back that if that were the case, then Sena shouldn't be allowed in the pool because she was just meat. Rika crawled over to Kodaka and teasingly asked if he wanted to see the swimsuit she was wearing under her lab coat. Kodaka immediately refused. Rika confidently said that he would be shocked if he saw it because she was wearing a swimsuit that only intelligent people could see. Kodaka suspected that Rika might not be wearing anything under her lab coat. When Rika turned around, Kodaka instinctively covered his eyes with both hands, assuming she was naked. It turned out Rika was just joking. She was indeed wearing a swimsuit, and she quickly asked for Kodaka's opinion on it. Kodaka commented that it looked like a regular swimsuit. However, Rika revealed that her swimsuit was made from a special material that turned transparent in warm water. Rika fantasized about going to a public bath with Kodaka. She imagined that while Kodaka would think she was wearing a swimsuit, it would become invisible once she entered the water, causing him to lose his mind and act on his desires like an animal. Kodaka firmly stated that he would never go to a public bath with her. Suddenly, Maria entered the room and greeted Kodaka, but she accidentally bumped into Yozora and fell over. Shocked, Maria thought she was seeing a horse monster. Yozora playfully grabbed Maria and declared that she would swallow her whole. Panicking, Maria begged the monster not to eat her, claiming that she would taste bad because she was still raw. Yozora, continuing her joke, said she would cook Maria first before eating her. Maria protested, saying she still wouldn't taste good because she had been eating nothing but vegetables lately. Yozora jokingly claimed that she was a vegetarian. Terrified, Maria screamed that she should never have stopped eating steak to avoid being eaten. Hearing this, Kodaka asked whether Yukimura had stopped giving her steak. Yukimura mentioned that lately Maria had been asking for regular food. Yozora kept chasing the terrified Maria, and Kobato became interested in joining in. She called Yozora Astaroth, the demon prince, and even told her to eat Maria from head to toe. Maria suspected that Kobato, the vampire, was the one who brought the monster to the clubroom and cursed at her. Yozora continued to scare Maria by saying she would eat her, causing Maria to scream for help from Kodaka. Kodaka asked Yozora to stop her antics immediately. When Yozora took off the horse mask, Maria was confused about why the monster had turned into Yozora. Yozora explained that it was because of a cursed mask. Anyone who wore it would have their mind controlled by the demon prince, Asutaru. Yozora then put the mask on Maria's head, making her scream in fear as everything turned dark inside. Kobato laughed, claiming that it was a sign Maria's soul had been swallowed by the power of darkness. Maria screamed for help, begging someone to remove the mask because she didn't want to become a horse monster. Kobato told her to promise not to get close to Kodaka if she wanted to be saved, but Maria refused because she liked Kodaka. Of course, Kobato didn't want Maria to have feelings for her big brother. By accident, one of Kobato's punches managed to knock off the horse mask. Sena suggested to Yozora that they go to the beach so her swimsuit wouldn't go to waste. Yozora refused because there would be too many people, so Sena offered to take them to a private beach, which even had a lodge. Sena had only been there once when she was a child, and since it was quite far away, they would need to stay overnight. Rika then asked if they could use the lodge for a training camp. Sena agreed, especially since training camps were common in dating sims. The place seemed perfect for club activities and would be a good experience to help them become more sociable. As for the schedule, everyone was free anytime since none of them had friends. The next day, while Kodaka and Kobato were enjoying their lunch, Segana suddenly called Kodaka and invited both him and Kobato to her house to meet her father. Apparently, when Sena told her father about the beach and the lodge, she also mentioned Kodaka, and her father suddenly wanted to meet him. Kodaka quickly informed Yozora that he and Kobato would be absent from the club that day. Not long after, Sena also messaged Yozora to let her know she wouldn't be coming to the clubroom either. That afternoon, only Yozora and Rika were in the clubroom, happily reading books while Yukimura quietly stood guard. Kodaka and Kobato took a train and a bus, then walked until they arrived in front of Sena's house. Her father was already waiting for them at the front door. Kodaka and Kobato introduced themselves, and Sena's father commented that their faces resembled Hayato and Eri, Kodaka's parents. He invited them inside, but the family's housekeeper reminded him that he hadn't introduced himself yet. Sena's father then revealed that his name was Ten, which meant heavenly, and Muma, which meant horse. Kodaka jokingly asked if his name was Tema, but the housekeeper corrected him, saying it was pronounced Pegasus. Sana's father insisted that he didn't want to be called that name because it sounded undignified. The housekeeper then introduced herself as Stella. She jokingly warned Kodaka not to stare at her too much, claiming it might make her pregnant. At first, Kodaka thought Stella was Sana's mother, but Sana's father clarified that her mother was currently abroad. Sana found it strange since her father usually didn't greet guests at the front door. Her father explained that he just happened to be passing by, but Stella exposed him, saying he was actually eager to meet Kodaka and Kobato. Embarrassed, Sana's father denied it and quickly ordered Stella to prepare dinner. When the meal was served, Kobato was delighted because the food was quite luxurious. They all began to enjoy their dinner together. During the meal, Kodaka expressed his gratitude to Sana's father for helping him get into St. Chronica Academy, mentioning how difficult his father's request had been. Sana's father admitted that Kodaka's father was quite a hassle for calling him right at the end of the school year and asking him to arrange for both of his children to be admitted to the academy. Kodaka apologized. Sana's father mentioned that Kodaka was much more polite than he had expected from Hayato's son. Kodaka brought something for Sana's father, a kind of Chinese chili mix that tasted great with rice or pasta. Kodaka said that even though Kobato didn't like spicy food, she loved this one. Sana and her father immediately tried it with rice, and it turned out to be delicious. Seeing that, Kobato also wanted to try it, and Sana happily fed her. Kodaka's father had a knack for finding strange foods and seasonings like that, as he often traveled around Japan and abroad. Sana's father remarked that it must be tough for Kodaka and Kobato to be left behind while their father dug up ancient cities. He even called him trash, which made Kodaka shout that his father was not trash. Kodaka then lowered his voice, apologized, and said that his father might be foolish, but he was not trash. That night, Sana's father invited Kodaka and Kobato to stay over. Stella mentioned that there were no buses to Tuya City after 8 p.m. on weekends. She also offered to drive Kodaka if he still didn't want to stay, but it would be an inconvenience for her. Sana tried to persuade Kodaka to spend the night, but he said he didn't bring any pajamas. Sana's father told him to wear his sleepwear since even Kodaka's father did the same when he stayed over. Sana also offered Kobato her old pajamas that no longer fit. Sana's father suggested they use the guest room, and eventually Kodaka agreed to stay. Kobato had already fallen asleep at the dining table, so Kodaka carried her to the room. Sana found Kobato's sleeping face incredibly cute. According to Sana, her father seemed to like Kodaka because it had been a while since she had seen him that happy. Suddenly, Kobato woke up and Sana invited her to take a bath before bed. Kodaka told Kobato she didn't have to force herself to bathe, but Sana was already leading her to the bathroom. A little while later, Sana's father invited Kodaka to have a drink with him. Kodaka was hesitant because he was underage, but Sana's father said it was just grape juice while he drank wine. They toasted, and Sana's father mentioned that back in school, he and Kodaka's father used to drink wine together. Kodaka realized that he was essentially taking his father's place. Sana's father complimented Kodaka's drinking manners. Before long, Sana's father got drunk, but he kept pouring more wine into his glass until he eventually passed out on the bed. Kodaka hurried to find Stella. While going down the stairs, Kobato suddenly ran toward him crying and completely naked, clinging to him tightly. Kodaka had no idea what had happened. Moments later, Sana, also naked, came running after Kobato. She was shocked to see Kodaka and tripped over herself. Sana immediately called Kodaka a pervert and ran off in embarrassment. Shortly after, Stella appeared and also called Kodaka a pervert. Kodaka denied it, explaining that it was just an accident, and Stella seemed to understand. Stella handed Kobato a towel and told her to finish her bath before Sana returned. Kodaka informed Stella that Sana's father was asleep on the bed. Stella mentioned that once he fell asleep, it was hard to wake him up until morning. She said Kobato would sleep in her room and asked Kodaka to sleep with Sana's father. That night, after changing into his pajamas, Kodaka went to his bedroom. He felt that Sana's father considered his own father a close friend. That was probably why Kodaka's father felt comfortable leaving his son and daughter in Japan while he went abroad. This made Kodaka wonder if he would ever have a friend like that. That same night, Yozora was sitting alone in the playground. The next morning, Kodaka and Kobato said their goodbyes and thanked everyone. Sana's father invited them to visit again sometime. Sana then told Kobato that they should take a bath together next time, but Kobato immediately refused and ran off. Kodaka, curious, asked what Sana had done to Kobato. Sana insisted that she hadn't done anything to her. Sana brought up the events of the previous night, but Kodaka said he had been drinking wine with her father and didn't remember anything. When he asked what happened, Sana chose not to tell him and ran off to chase after Kobato. Kodaka figured that pretending not to know was probably the best option. Suddenly, Sana's father grabbed Kodaka's hand and told him that he was entrusting his daughter to him. Kodaka, surprised, agreed and called him Pegasus. This shocked Sana's father, but Kodaka quickly said goodbye. Stella, on the other hand, couldn't resist teasing him. While on the bus, Sana sent Kodaka a message asking if he really didn't remember anything from the previous night. Kodaka admitted that he didn't, which made Sana feel relieved. Not long after, Yozora sent him a message letting him know that the club meeting would start at 2 p.m. that day. Kodaka replied that he'd be there, and Yozora felt excited after reading his message. The club activity that day was a training camp at Sana's family's private beach. The club members gathered at the station to board the train together. As soon as they got on the train, Kodaka quickly arranged his belongings. When he settled into his seat, Maria suddenly sat next to him, which made Kobato upset. Kobato chose the seat in front of him, and Yukimura sat beside her, while Sana and Yozora picked the seats next to them. Yozora immediately started reading a novel, and Sana began playing her game. Kodaka asked Yukimura where Rika was. Yukimura explained that Rika wanted to check out the connection between the train cars. Meanwhile, Maria and Kobato were busy playing cards. It turned out their destination was an hour away from the station, and there were no buses available, so they decided to walk the rest of the way. Yozora remarked that in situations like this, the supervising teacher should bring out a car. Maria said that was ridiculous, pointing out that even though she was a genius teacher, there was no way she could get a driver's license. Kodaka was surprised at how energetic Rika seemed despite her tendency to stay indoors. Rika explained that her energy had been fully recharged after seeing the connection between the train cars. She described the rough metal parts locking together, vibrating and swaying with the train as an unparalleled form of eroticism that aroused her. After some time, they started to feel exhausted from the long walk. Suddenly, Kobato ran ahead, shouting that she could smell the sea, and before they knew it, they had arrived at their destination. They immediately headed to the inn. Everyone was excited as they gazed at the ocean in front of them, prompting Yozora to ask if they were the only ones enjoying it. Kobato was so eager that she couldn't wait to invite Kodaka to swim. After unpacking their luggage, they changed into their swimsuits and headed to the beach. Rika asked if they were going to strike a pose facing the ocean and yell a greeting like in SM Games. Sanad agreed, mentioning that they also did that on the beach in Mofu Mofu. Yozora said she had read about it in a manga, but didn't understand the purpose behind it. She speculated that it might be a ritual for popular people, and they decided to try it out so they would know how to act when they eventually made more friends. With Yozora giving the signal, they all tried shouting at the ocean, but it felt a little weird. Kobato excitedly shouted about the blue sky, white waves, and the sun calling to her. Kodaka reminded her to put on sunscreen before playing. She obeyed, recalling how painful sunburns felt when getting into a bath. Kodaka applied sunscreen to his younger sister, causing her to squeal, and Rika immediately called him a pervert. Kodaka suggested that everyone else should apply sunscreen too. Yozora hadn't brought any, but she figured her long-sleeved swimsuit would protect her skin. Out of nowhere, Maria asked Kodaka to apply sunscreen to her body, and Kodaka remarked that her skin was quite pale. Yukimura also requested the same thing and even offered to apply sunscreen on Kodaka's back. Just as Yukimura was about to do it, Rika suddenly shouted, claiming Kodaka's heart must be pounding with anticipation for Yukimura to touch his big muscular body. Sena asked Yozora to help her apply sunscreen on her back, but Yozora sarcastically questioned why she should be involved in the meat processing business. Eventually, though, she agreed to help. Yozora started applying sunscreen using her feet, and Sena requested that she be gentler. Yozora, however, insisted she wasn't used to it. When Sena asked her to spread it more evenly, Yozora gladly rubbed the sunscreen onto Sena's back with her foot even harder. Sena said Yozora's hands felt really big and a bit different on her back. When she turned her head, she was shocked to see Yozora stepping on her. Yozora told Sena not to get up yet and kept pressing her back with her foot. Sena was confused as to why she couldn't move her body. No matter how hard she tried to get up, she couldn't because Yozora was stepping on her center of gravity. Yozora called Sena a stupid lump of meat who dared to show her back to her. Sena asked Yozora to use her hands instead, but Yozora said there was no difference between her hands and feet. Sena argued that the only person allowed to step on someone else's back was herself. Yozora recalled that Sena often rewarded her male underlings with stomps and sarcastically asked if her reward made Sena happy. Of course, Sena was not happy with Yozora's treatment and insisted that her stomps were considered rewards because they came from the feet of a goddess. However, Yozora claimed that Sena's body was being honest and that she actually liked being stepped on. Sena immediately denied it and struggled to move her body. Yozora continued pouring sunscreen on Sena's back while pressing her body into the ground, making it impossible for her to move. Yozora mocked Sena, saying that she had lost all her dignity and pride in such a humiliating position and continued to torment her. To make things worse, Yozora accused Sena of being a first-class pervert for getting aroused in a situation like that. She even insulted Sena by calling her a filthy lump of perverted pig meat. Sena protested, saying that it wasn't pleasurable at all. Yozora fired back, claiming that only a perverted dog like Sena would reveal her true nature when being violated. She went on to call Sena a true pervert, a walking porno, and a piece of meat filled with sticky white fluid. Yozora even commanded Sena to beg her, complete with bows, to torment her until she died. Furious, Sena felt Yozora had gone too far. She immediately stood up and declared that she was not a pervert or anything like that. She was a princess and a goddess in that place. Unfortunately, Sena didn't realize that her bra had come undone. Yozora called her indecent, which made Sena feel embarrassed and caused her to run away. Kodaka, watching the scene, wondered why Yozora and Sena were still fighting even after they had arrived at the beach. That afternoon, everyone had fun at the beach. Some played volleyball, others rode inflatable boats, sunbathed, or went fishing. Later in the evening, Kodaka prepared dinner for everyone since he was the only one who could cook. While looking for yogurt, he found Sena lost in thought. Kodaka asked what she was doing there. Sena asked if Kodaka had seen her just before she ran off earlier. Kodaka replied that he had been busy applying sunscreen on Kobato's back, so he hadn't really noticed. Kodaka then asked if Yozora had been teasing her again, and Sena smiled, admitting that Yozora had indeed been messing with her. Kodaka informed her that dinner was ready. The next day, the club members returned to the beach. That morning, Kodaka went shopping at the pier to buy ingredients. While Kodaka was cooking, Yozora asked what he was making. Kodaka said he was making pala and mentioned that the fish sold at the pier was surprisingly cheap. Yozora was amazed that Kodaka could cook like that. Kodaka explained that he and Kobato had been living alone for a long time, and he asked if Yozora could cook since she took home economics classes. It turned out that Yozora would always stand in the corner of the classroom during home economics. Her group mates acted as if she wasn't even there, and when the cooking was done, they would set aside a portion for her out of pity. Yozora would eat the food without enthusiasm, finish before anyone else, and wash only the dishes she had used. That was all she ever did in home economics class. That night, they had dinner together, and everyone loved Kodaka's cooking because it tasted so good. While they were eating, Yozora and Kodaka accidentally made eye contact. Their training camp ended that night, but according to Kodaka, they didn't do anything that actually felt like a training camp. However, Yozora argued that they did stand on the beach and shot at the ocean, but Kodaka didn't think that counted. Rika chimed in, saying they really should do something more exciting. In fact, she said that when boys and girls gather at night, there's only one thing to do, a party. Yozora immediately punched Rika in the face to stop her from saying weird things again. Rika then suggested they tell scary stories or do a courage test. Kodaka was surprised to learn that Rika was interested in things that weren't scientific. According to Rika, all girls love horror stories. Sena mentioned that there was also a courage test scene in Kirisuku, and she wanted to try it. Yozora suggested they tell scary stories and then go to the forest, and everyone agreed to go along with the plan. Rika started with her scary story, but when she finished, she was the only one who screamed in fear. Next was Yukimura, but instead of a horror story, she told a comedy. Then it was Sena's turn, but after she finished, no one felt scared. When it was Kodaka's turn, he told a creepy story called The Scary Submissive. After Kodaka finished, Maria just laughed and asked why the mother put St. Augustine's head in there. Finally, Yozora shared a story she had heard from a friend. The main character of the story was a girl named Elko, a middle school student at a public school who had a close friend named Yeiko. Ako and Yeiko did everything together. At their school, there was an old legend about a girl named Yamiko. According to the story, Yamiko would haunt and kill anyone who betrayed their friends. Ako and Yeiko's friendship fell apart when they both fought over a boy, and Ako caused Yeiko to commit suicide. After that, strange things started happening around Ako, and the weirdness escalated until one day, Ako ran away in fear and hid, only to be strangled by a ghost. After that day, no one ever saw Ako again. When Yozora finished the story, she blew out the candle, scaring everyone. She turned the lights back on and suggested they do a courage test, but Kodaka insisted they cancel it because it was too dark and dangerous outside. Senad agreed, saying it would be bad if something happened. Yozora agreed to cancel the courage test, but immediately turned the lights off again, which made everyone scream in fear. That night, Kodaka couldn't fall asleep. Even though he didn't think Yozora's story was that scary, the part where the main character betrayed her best friend stuck in his mind. He started wondering if his childhood best friend ever felt betrayed by him. Suddenly, someone opened the bedroom door, scaring Kodaka. It turned out to be Seina, who asked him to keep her company for a bit. Seina wanted Kodaka to accompany her to the toilet. She claimed she wasn't scared, just being cautious. Kodaka asked why she didn't ask Yozora, her roommate, to go with her instead. Seina said that if she asked Yozora, she'd definitely make fun of her. Meanwhile, Yozora woke up and noticed Seina wasn't by her side. In the bathroom, Seina repeatedly checked to make sure Kodaka was still waiting for her. When she came out, she made Kodaka promise not to tell Yozora about it, saying she'd never forgive him if he did. Kodaka complied and returned to his bed. Not long after, Kobato asked him to accompany her to the bathroom. While she was inside, she made sure that Kodaka was still waiting outside. When she finished, Kodaka went back to his room. Before long, Maria came to his room and Kodaka had already guessed that she wanted him to accompany her to the bathroom too. Just like Kobato, while Maria was inside, she confirmed that Kodaka was still waiting. However, Kodaka was so sleepy that he didn't respond to her calls, which scared Maria. After that, Kodaka returned to his room and fell asleep. A little while later, Rika came to his room. Kodaka assumed she also wanted him to go with her to the bathroom, but it turned out that Rika just wanted to sleep with him. Kodaka promptly kicked her out of his room. Suddenly, Kodaka felt the urge to go to the bathroom. When he opened the door, he was startled to see Yozora standing right in front of him. Yozora asked where he was going and Kodaka told her he was heading to the bathroom. Without hesitation, Yozora invited herself to go with him. Kodaka started to wonder if Yozora was scared to go to the bathroom alone after telling her ghost story about Yamiko. Yozora denied it, but Kodaka found it amusing that she could be afraid of her own story. According to Yozora, you can't truly scare someone with a story that doesn't even frighten you. When they reached the bathroom, Kodaka told Yozora to go in first. While she was inside, Yozora asked if he was still there and Kodaka reassured her that he was waiting because he needed to use the bathroom too, so he wouldn't be going anywhere. Not long after, Yozora came out and apologized for making him wait. Kodaka quickly went in and Yozora promised to wait for him until he finished. Meanwhile, Sanao was left alone in the room, waiting for Yozora to return. When Kodaka came back from the bathroom, Yozora asked if her ghost story had scared him. Kodaka told her that it didn't frighten him at all. As he opened the door to enjoy the view of the sea at night, he suddenly said that betraying a friend is never a good thing. Yozora quietly agreed with him. When Kodaka was a child, his childhood friend once told him that her mother said it was enough to have just one friend. In response, Kodaka promised that he would cherish her 100 times more and remain her friend, even if he had to go against the world. His childhood friend felt embarrassed when she heard him say that. Back then, they exchanged nicknames, but unfortunately, Kodaka can't remember what nickname his childhood friend gave him. They used to play together all the time and often had running races. This childhood memory resurfaced in Kodaka's dreams, but to this day, he still can't recall her nickname. That day, Kodaka and the other club members were hanging out in the clubroom. Kodaka was working on his summer vacation homework. With the break almost over, it seemed like he would be able to finish his assignments on time. Yozora mentioned that there would be a summer festival at a shrine tomorrow, located in the shopping district near Tokyo Station. Seina, curious, asked why Yozora suddenly brought up the festival. Yozora explained that on her way to school, she saw lanterns hanging around and it reminded her of the event. Seina then questioned whether Yozora only wanted to talk about that, or if she had thought about going to the festival with the club members. Yozora bluntly asked why she would bother going to a crowded place. Rika agreed with Yozora, recalling a time when she wanted to attend a seasonal Doujin festival in Tokyo. The train was so crowded that she got off halfway and went back home. Since then, Rika has disliked festivals. Kodaka mentioned that many people attend because of the exclusive books sold at the festival and asked if Rika was okay with missing out. Rika, surprised, remarked that Kodaka seemed to know a lot about niche topics. She jokingly warned him not to dig too deeply into women's personal interests. Kodaka figured that Rika was just making another one of her pervy jokes. He thought to himself that for a genius inventor and scientist, Rika should try being cooler and a bit more confident. According to Rika, those little gaps in the Moe aesthetic are perfect for inserting dirty jokes, and that kind of humor is a core part of her personality. Apparently, the game company she helps out even buys her the books she wants, which is basically the only reason she works with them. Kodaka realized that this was Rika's way of dealing with her hikikomora tendencies. Seina then asked Kodaka if the festival would have takoyaki stalls. Kodaka replied that there were usually 1 or 2 stalls selling it. Curious, he asked Sana if she liked takoyaki. Sana, a bit defensive, asked if there was something wrong with that. Kodaka reassured her, saying that he liked takoyaki too. He shared a story about when he used to live in Osaka. Back then, he felt down because he couldn't get close to anyone, but the only thing that cheered him up was the takoyaki his dad brought home from a famous shop. In his opinion, delicious takoyaki could heal the soul, and he couldn't forgive anyone who sold bad takoyaki with a smile on their face. Sana said that for her, takoyaki was just something tasty to eat. She didn't have any deep feelings about it. At that moment, Kobato chimed in, saying it had been a while since Kodaka last made takoyaki for her. Kodaka asked if she wanted some, and before Kobato could answer, Maria suddenly blurted out that she wanted takoyaki too. Seeing their excitement, Kodaka suggested that they all go to the festival together the next day. Kobato, however, seemed annoyed and questioned why Maria, the church lackey, was tagging along. Maria argued back, saying she wanted to go with Kodaka and suggested that Kobato, the vampire, should just stay home. Sana quickly added that she wanted to go too because she was craving takoyaki. Yukimura also expressed a desire to join, saying that she wanted to accompany Kodaka. Kodaka agreed, saying the 5 of them could go together. Just then, Yozora and Rika also decided that they wanted to come along. Kodaka, surprised, reminded them that they had just said they didn't like festivals. But Yozora and Rika admitted they wanted to eat takoyaki as well. The next day, they agreed to meet up and go to the festival together. Yukimura, Rika, and Maria wore yukatas that day. Kodaka complimented Rika, saying she looked better than he expected. Rika, however, wasn't satisfied with his comment and demanded that he be honest. Kodaka then said that her appearance was such a mess that it actually turned him on. Hearing that, Rika blushed and called Kodaka an idiot. Kodaka, feeling confused, didn't know how to respond. Yozora pointed out that the only person who hadn't arrived yet was Sana, suggesting they leave without her. Just then, Sana showed up, scolding Yozora and claiming that the festival would be nothing without her. Kodaka was captivated by how stunning Sana looked in her yukata. Noticing this, Yozora immediately hit Kodaka and told him to hurry up so they could head to the festival. On the way, Sana asked Kodaka why Kobato wasn't wearing a yukata, especially since they were going to the festival. Kodaka explained that just because it was a festival didn't mean everyone had to wear one. Sana argued that it wasn't about what other people thought, she just really wanted to see Kobato and yukata. When Kodaka said that he and Kobato didn't own any yukatas, Rika suddenly mentioned that there was a shop renting them nearby. Sana insisted that Kodaka and Kobato should wear yukatas and added that Kobato probably wanted to look cute in one too. Kobato, meanwhile, was quietly staring at Maria, who looked adorable in her yukata. Seeing this, Kodaka agreed to rent one, thinking it might be nice for them to wear yukatas for a change. Kobato also agreed, but just then, Maria blurted out that she wanted to eat takoyaki as soon as possible. Hearing that, Kodaka asked Yukimura to go ahead and buy some. Yukimura happily obliged. Sana then urged Yozora to come inside the shop and rent a yukata too, but Yozora refused, saying she didn't need one. Sana pointed out that Yozora was actually quite pretty, and that it would be a shame not to wear a yukata. Kodaka agreed, noting that girls with long black hair looked especially good in yukatas. However, Yozora insisted that she didn't like wearing that kind of outfit. Kodaka changed into a yukata from the rental shop. As he was waiting, he noticed a poster featuring a girl wearing a yukata. Imagining Yozora in one, he was sure she would look amazing. Just then, Kobato called out to him, asking him to check out how she looked in her yukata. Sana was completely charmed by Kobato's cuteness, while Kodaka told her she looked absolutely beautiful. Sana joked that Kodaka looked like someone who had lost his mind during a coming-of-age ceremony, even though she actually thought the yukata suited him. She also teased him about his pudding-colored hair, saying that it made him look like a delinquent. Sana then suggested he dye it black. Kodaka admitted that he had thought about it before and asked Sana if she knew about his mother's passing. He explained that while he inherited his facial features from his father, his hair color was a gift from his mother. If he had his mother's face and hair, he wouldn't have had so many problems. Kodaka chose to keep his natural hair color because it was the only thing connecting him to his mother. Changing it would feel like cutting off that precious bond, even if his hair often caused him trouble. Sana remarked that Yozora wasn't like other guys. After that, they all headed to the festival to meet up with the others. When they arrived, they found Yozora and Maria happily enjoying the festival snacks they had already bought. Maria was eating so much that she said it felt like heaven. Meanwhile, Rika's suggestive way of eating a chocolate-covered banana made Kodaka uncomfortable, and he told her to stop. Rika cheekily responded that she was practicing eating the banana erratically and asked if it was turning him on. Shortly after, Yukimura returned with the takoyaki and handed it to Kodaka. Kodaka took a bite at the takoyaki. Yukimura asked how it tasted, and Kodaka said it was pretty soft, with the outer layer not being crispy enough, making it fall apart easily, and there was too little octopus inside. He bluntly called it not good. Kodaka then suggested they find some better takoyaki. Yozora and Rika said they were already full, while Maria was craving something that looked like a cloud. Sana also mentioned she was full. Kodaka questioned why they came to the festival in the first place if not for the takoyaki. Sana admitted she couldn't eat any more food. Yozora then suggested they head home, which confused Sana. She wondered why Yozora was so quick to leave. Yozora said their business at the festival was done after trying the takoyaki. Sana argued that they should enjoy walking around the festival while they were still there. Yozora scoffed, asking if they were still at the age where scooping goldfish or playing ring toss was exciting. Sana, on the other hand, suspected Yozora wanted to leave because she was afraid of losing to her in a festival game. Yozora claimed she simply couldn't stand the crowds, but admitted the festival wasn't as bad as the swimming pool. Still, she decided to use the opportunity to teach Sana a lesson. Sana then challenged her to a goldfish scooping contest, and they quickly got started. Unfortunately, Yozora's paper scoop tore the moment it touched the water. Kodaka explained that the scoops were made of paper, so they had to catch the fish before the paper ripped. When Sana tried again, her scoop also tore, just as she was about to catch a fish. Frustrated, Yozora grumbled that the game was draining her wallet. In response, Sana bought 10 scoops and stacked them together, allowing her to catch a fish easily. Yozora accused her of cheating, but Sana called it a battle strategy. The booth attendant scolded Sana, saying she could keep the fish but should leave the booth with Yozora. Sana happily named her new pet fish Kandata. Not wanting to back down, Yozora challenged her to a Katanuki game. Sana confidently agreed, saying she was up for any competition. Yozora grumbled that Sana had cheated before. While Yozora and Sana faced off in the Katanuki challenge, Rika invited Kodaka to leave the two of them behind and check out another booth. Kodaka agreed, and they headed off to try the water balloon toss. Suddenly, they heard Sana and Yozora arguing again. This time, both claimed to have won the game, drawing the attention of people nearby. Sana, frustrated, said that precision-based games didn't suit her and challenged Yozora to a roulette match. Yozora, of course, accepted. Meanwhile, Kodaka accompanied Rika to a shooting game. Rika's aim was so accurate that the booth attendant couldn't believe she hit the target perfectly. She won the grand prize, a game console. Since she already had one at home, she handed it to Kodaka. With a playful tone, she asked him to think of the console as herself and to play with it every day. Kodaka decided to make the console part of the club's equipment. Not long after, they spotted Yozora and Sana arguing again over their latest competition. Yozora, unwilling to accept her loss, accused Sana of cheating. The booth owner, tired of their antics, told them to leave. Kodaka bought Rika an ice cream as a thank you, and she smiled as she accepted it. Shortly after, Yozora and Sana returned to ask Kodaka to carry their stuff because it was too much to handle while competing. Kodaka refused since he was already carrying the game console. Yozora and Sana were surprised to see the console, and Rika playfully remarked that it was like having Rika AA with him. Sana finally declared that their activities for the day were over. Yozora confidently claimed that if the competition had continued, she would have won. Sana, unwilling to let Yozora have the last word, reminded her that she was still ahead by one game. Yozora said that using a spoon to scoop her fish didn't count. Kodaka then invited both of them to gather with Yukimura and the others. Sana called Stella to pick them up, but since there was a festival going on, she couldn't guarantee when Stella would arrive. Kodaka suggested that they light fireworks together while they waited, and everyone agreed, especially since it was their only chance in the near future. Sana admitted that she had never lit fireworks before, except in video games. Once everything was ready, Kodaka started the fireworks party. Maria was overjoyed when the firework in her hand lit up. Kobato held fireworks in both hands, waving them around as if she were unleashing fire powers, which caught Maria's attention, and she began to imitate her. Rika expressed her desire to study fireworks one day, while Yukimura remarked that human life was fleeting, just like fireworks. Yozora and Sana lit several fireworks at once, and everyone seemed to be having a great time playing with them. Finally, it was time to light the biggest firework, which they called the final boss firework. When it was lit, it exploded once, prompting Yozora to call it disappointing, just like Sana, which made Sana angry. As Yozora approached the firework, several more explosions suddenly burst forth, startling her. She admitted that the final boss firework wasn't as disappointing as she had expected. After the bursts stopped, Yozora approached it again, but this time the big firework released a massive flame. Rika commented that the final boss was indeed impressive and everyone was thrilled to see it. Out of nowhere, Kodaka asked if anyone else smelled something burning. According to Rika, it didn't smell like gunpowder. Suddenly, Sana screamed, pointing out that Yozora's hair was on fire from the sparks. Kodaka quickly told Yozora to turn around and douse her with water from a nearby bucket. Yozora ended up soaked, and after a brief silence, she left without saying a word. The following week, summer vacation ended, but Yozora never returned to the clubroom. On the first day back to school, Yozora was still absent. During roll call, the teacher called Yozora's name, and just then, she walked in with a completely new look. Her hair was now cut short. Seeing this, Kodaka immediately remembered his childhood friend. He called out the names Sora, and Yozora turned around and called him Taka. That was their first reunion after 10 long years. It was the first day of school after the summer break. Yozora arrived just as the teacher called her name for attendance. The teacher quickly instructed her to take her seat. That day, Yozora looked different with her new short haircut, and Kodaka was stunned when he saw her. As she walked past him, Kodaka called her Sora, the name of his childhood friend. Yozora was surprised, but she immediately smiled and greeted Kodaka by calling him Taka, the nickname she used for him when they were childhood friends 10 years ago. Yozora recalled the first time she saw Kodaka enter the classroom. It was when Kodaka had just transferred to their school after the students switched to their summer uniforms. That day, Kodaka, panting from exhaustion, entered the classroom and introduced himself to Ms. Asada, saying that he was a new transfer student. Ms. Asada looked terrified of Kodaka, whose intimidating appearance made him seem like a delinquent. The other students assumed that Kodaka was trying to attack Ms. Asada and immediately labeled him as a troublemaker because of his hair color. At that moment, Yozora realized that the transfer student standing in front of the class was Taka, her childhood friend. Kodaka scanned the classroom, but every student quickly averted their gaze, too scared to make eye contact with him. Yozora was absolutely sure it was Taka. She recognized him by his hair color and the way he looked at people. To her, Kodaka hadn't changed a bit despite the 10 years that had passed. He still had the same awkward smile and the same problem, where his attempts to be friendly often backfired. Yozora saw Kodaka asking the student next to him to share a textbook since he didn't have one. The student hurriedly handed over the book out of fear. Yozora was convinced that he was Taka, the only close friend she had ever had. That afternoon, Yozora was chatting with Tomo, her imaginary friend. She told Tomo that Kodaka still hadn't realized she was his childhood friend and that even after 10 years, it seemed like Kodaka didn't remember her at all. It sounded cruel, but 10 years ago, Yozora always wore boys' clothes, so it made sense that Kodaka didn't recognize her. Yozora didn't want to approach him first, especially since she didn't know how to talk to people. Instead, she tried to get his attention in subtle ways. She would walk right past his desk when arriving and leaving school, and she would make sure to cross paths with him at the lockers, but Kodaka never said a word to her. While Yozora was engrossed in her conversation with Tomo, Kodaka suddenly opened the classroom door, startling her. She became anxious, wondering if Kodaka had overheard her talking to her imaginary friend. She didn't know what to do. Kodaka then asked if she could actually see ghosts because he had heard her talking even though there was no one else in the room. Yozora admitted that she was talking to her imaginary friend. That was the first conversation between Yozora and Kodaka in 10 years. At that moment, Yozora suddenly had an idea to start a club. She rushed to the student council to request a club proposal form. She figured that if she couldn't join an existing club, she could just make her own. The club she planned to create was meant for the two of them. Afterward, Yozora headed to the church lounge, a place where she often read books when the library was too crowded. The room was cozy, and the person in charge was Sister Maria, a little girl. When Yozora opened the door, she immediately approached Sister Maria. Maria, who was drowsy, asked what business Yozora had in her sacred napping room. She even told Yozora that trash like her shouldn't just barge in. Yozora tried to remain patient. Yozora showed her the club proposal and politely asked Maria to sign it. However, Maria refused before Yozora could even finish her sentence. Yozora pleaded with her to at least listen to the proposal, but Maria rejected her again, calling her filth. When Yozora said she wanted to use the room for club activities, Maria kicked her out and called her stupid. Having lost her patience, Yozora ended the argument with a slap. The next day, Yozora invited Kodaka to talk with her, which immediately sparked gossip among the students in the class. Yozora told Kodaka about the club she had created and its purpose, to make friends. The club was a place where Kodaka or Taka and Yozora or Sora could be friends again. Over time, the club gained more members, including Sana, Yukimura, Rika, and Kodaka's younger sister. Together, they shared many experiences, playing games, singing at karaoke, exchanging phone contacts, going to the swimming pool, gazing at the ocean at night, and watching fireworks during the festival. All these moments made Yozora tear up with emotion, realizing she had finally reunited with her childhood friend. That morning, the teacher called Kodaka's name during roll call. As he turned his head, he noticed all the students staring at him, wondering why he was looking at Yozora for so long and speculating about their relationship. Yozora wiped her tears and quickly sat down while the teacher continued the roll call. During the break, Kodaka approached Yozora, attracting the attention of several students. He asked her what was going on with her hair and why she had cut it. Yozora replied that it was because of the festival night. Kodaka, confused, pointed out that only the ends of her hair had been burned, so why did she cut so much off? Yozora argued that Kodaka had splashed water all over her, and even after washing it, the smell wouldn't go away. Kodaka apologized for the incident. Their conversation turned into a series of misunderstandings when overheard by the other students. Phrases like splashing it everywhere, just a little bit, all of it, and a weird-smelling white liquid that wouldn't wash off made it sound as if something inappropriate had happened between them. Kodaka tried to deny their assumptions, but Yozora quickly dragged him out of the classroom. Outside, Yozora revealed that she was sore and asked how Kodaka felt about it. Kodaka admitted he was surprised. Yozora pressed further, asking if he felt happy, proud, or moved. However, Kodaka only expressed his confusion, saying that surprise was his strongest emotion. Kodaka commented that Yozora's short hair suited her, making her blush as she nervously asked if it looked weird. Kodaka reassured her that it didn't. That day after school, they walked home together. Yozora mentioned how nerve-wracking it was to get her hair cut at the salon, and Kodaka sympathized with their feelings. Kodaka then asked if Yozora had recognized him since the beginning of the school year. Yozora admitted that she had known it was him right away because of his pudding-colored hair. Kodaka, confused, questioned why Yozora had asked for his name when they first spoke in class. Annoyed, Yozora explained that she remembered him, but since he didn't recognize her, she pretended not to know him either. Kodaka apologized, explaining that he had always thought his childhood friend was a boy. Yozora argued that she never once said she was a boy. Kodaka explained that he assumed so because Yozora always wore boys' clothes, picked fights with everyone, and didn't act like other girls. Yozora blamed Kodaka for leaving before she could reveal her secret. The important thing she had wanted to tell him back then was that she was actually a girl. Kodaka asked why she never showed up that day. Yozora confessed that she had been too embarrassed to face him while wearing a skirt. She had worn a skirt on the day they were supposed to meet so that Kodaka would realize she was a girl. It was the first time she had ever worn one, and she was scared that Kodaka would laugh at her. Yozora admitted that if she had known Kodaka was moving away, she might have found the courage to tell him the truth. Yozora blamed Kodaka for everything, which left Kodaka confused. He wondered why Yozora even wore a skirt just to tell him that. According to Yozora, Kodaka wouldn't believe her if she only used words. She asked him not to tell the neighbors' club members that they used to be childhood friends. Kodaka questioned why it had to be a secret, but Yozora insisted that it wasn't something worth spreading around. Before they went to the club room, Kodaka asked how he should address Yozora. This made Yozora remember when Kodaka first introduced himself and asked if she had a nickname. However, she didn't share it because it was something only her friends called her. When Kodaka and Yozora arrived at the club room, Rika was shocked by Yozora's appearance and called her a mysterious, sexy guy, not even recognizing her at first. Rika tried to guess who she was, suggesting everything from Kodaka's underclassman, upperclassman, little brother, big brother, soccer rival, student council president, to even his fiancée. Kodaka was baffled by how far Rika's imagination went. Yukimura, feeling dejected, was sad to see Kodaka having a bond with a sexy guy, which Kodaka quickly denied. Rika, however, started asking which one of them was the seam and which was the yuk, terms used to describe the dominant and submissive roles in a male-male relationship, even imagining them doing naughty things together. Seina, on the other hand, immediately recognized that it was Yozora. Both Yukimura and Rika were shocked when they realized the truth. Seina then asked Yozora why she cut her hair like that. Yozora coldly replied that it had nothing to do with her. Seina insisted on knowing the reason, but Yozora refused, saying she didn't want to waste her precious time talking to Seina. Out of nowhere, Rika started acting strangely and hurried out of the clubroom. Seina speculated that Yozora had been rejected by a guy and mocked her, calling her an abandoned girl. In response, Yozora punched Seina in the face, firmly stating that she hadn't been rejected by anyone. However, she added that now she knew how Seina would react if she ever had her heart broken. Despite Yozora's refusal to explain her new hairstyle, Seina kept pushing for an answer. Rika eventually returned carrying a prestigious white blazer that only the student council president of Street Chronica Academy was allowed to wear. She insisted that Yozora would stand out even more if she wore it. Yozora, confused, questioned why she needed to cosplay like that, but Rika pleaded with her to try it on. Kodaka and Yukimura stepped out of the club room because Yozora was changing clothes. Maria arrived and immediately hugged Kodaka, who told her that she looked as healthy as ever. Maria suspected that Kodaka and Yukimura were standing in the hallway because they were up to something naughty. Before long, Yozora finished changing, and when the door opened, Kodaka was stunned by her appearance. Maria, however, called Yozora a sexy guy but felt scared because, according to her, sexy guys like to eat sweet girls they target. Since the school nurse always said Maria was very sweet, she was convinced that the sexy guy would eat her. Yozora approached Maria and teasingly said that she would eat her whole. Terrified, Maria hid behind Kodaka, insisting that her body didn't taste good. Yozora playfully added that she would eat Maria from her feet to her head. Just then, Kobato arrived at the clubroom. Maria pulled her in front of Yozora, offering her up instead. Kobato, confused, asked if Yozora was really going to eat her. Suddenly, Senai interrupted, declaring that she would be the one to eat Kobato. In response, Yozora quickly smacked Senai for being so perverted. Senai remarked that no matter how Yozora styled her hair, she was still Yozora. Yozora affirmed that she had not changed and was still the same person. Hearing this, Kodaka remembered when Yozora had asked him to keep calling her by her name as usual. He understood that while Taka and Sora had been friends in the past, things between him and Yozora were different now. Even though he had realized back then that Yozora was Sora, it didn't mean their relationship could go back to how it was 10 years ago. Kodaka still didn't know what had truly happened between them during that time, and that unanswered question was one of the reasons he remained in the neighbors' club, to find friends and perhaps find that answer. Senna continued to question why Yozora had cut her hair so short, but Yozora refused to give an answer. As usual, the conversation turned into an argument. Meanwhile, Maria and Kobato also resumed their constant bickering, while Yukimura smiled softly as she served tea to Kodaka. That day, Yozora announced to all the club members that the neighbors' club activities for the new school year were about to begin. Despite the frequent arguments and disagreements among the club members, they remained friends and always stuck together as they carried out their club activities.